Ah. Hello, good evening, everybody. Hello and good evening. Oh my goodness gracious me. It's Friday. It's the last Friday of August. And here we are. We have a late start to our night, but that's okay because we accommodate our guests. And tonight's guest is Shawn Gilmore. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, you can tell what kind of a day it's been for me. Hello, welcome, Shawn.
Hello. I don't want to start the day over, but
I want some coffee now. Where's my coffee?
Oh my God.
It's the late night edition of Ancestral Eyes live.
Get me the coffee because I think it's morning. My Lord. Anyway, I hope people are tuning in. You know, I was thinking of coming on earlier and saying, we're going to have a late night tonight. We're starting at 10 as opposed to 8, but I'm sure someone's going to come in. And there's Ken Allen. Hello, hello. Thank you, Ken, for tuning in. I hope there's other people going to be tuning in. Well, whatever. You know what? Everybody can go back and look at the archive show. So Jean-Jerome, I'm actually going to read the intro to welcome our guest. Okay. So this is episode 19 for Ancestral Eyes. And we welcome Shawn Gilmore, who is a paranormal investigator. He was born in San Diego, California, but as a child, he and his family moved to Northeast Ohio, where he currently lives with his family of 3 beautiful children and his wife of over a decade. Shawn was brought up Jewish with his family and converted to Catholicism in 2009. Most of his time is spent with his family, hiking, camping, playing sports, games, and anything else to enjoy being with his wife and children. And I know I can attest to that because I see your posts, Shawn, and they're charming. They really are. Your kids are a hoot and a holler, and one of your kids is very artistically inclined and does so well. Honest to God. Her anime, awesome. Anyway, so going back to what I was reading, Shawn is an empath, and he has a natural intuitive gift, which helps with him being an investigator, a paranormal investigator. He's had profound experiences growing up as a child and into his young adult ages. This is what led him to researching and investigating the paranormal. He lived his life being terrified of his home for many years as a child, but he felt that if he understood the experiences a little bit differently, things could have been a lot better for him and his family during his adolescent years. Many of Shawn's feelings as an empath have been confirmed in numerous occasions. Yes, for sure, even on our show. Even to this day, he is amazed when he gets confirmation on what energies he picks up. Shawn investigates the paranormal in hopes to help other people understand that the paranormal is actually normal. It is. It's just another realm. Shawn was an investigator and a team manager for Ectovision Paranormal, where he led investigations for private residents and businesses. He also took on the role of debunking the evidence that was found during the evidence review. Shawn has investigated numerous private homes, famous locations, and a few famous locations that Shawn has investigated includes the Ohio State Reformatory, the Monroe House, and the Hinsdale House. He loves investigating parts of the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. That's near you, isn't it, Shawn?
It is.
I think it is. Oh, what an awesome place that you live, right near a park too.
Yes.
And there's Bigfoot too. Oh, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Others, and also other state parks and cemeteries with strong history where there have been claims of the paranormal activity. Ohio seems to be the place for paranormal investigations. I've got to come sometime to Ohio, definitely, and do some investigations with you for sure. Shawn's true passion in the paranormal is conducting private home investigations. This is where he feels like he can really help people the most. and believes that most private cases are clients who are afraid because they don't understand what's going on and unintentionally provoke the spirits out of fear. He believes in most cases that by bridging this communication gap between the living and the spirits, he and his team are able to help their clients coexist with the spirits in their homes together. Shawn's story on what got him involved in the paranormal in the first place can be read in Encounters with the Paranormal, which is published by Haunted Road Media and is available for purchase on Amazon. He also appeared on the Travel Channel in the US and on the Escape Channel in Canada on season 4 of Paranormal Survivor, and was featured on several episodes of Haunted Case Files season 2. You can also catch Shawn on his own podcast show called Into the Abyss on RU Media Network's Facebook and YouTube pages. And this podcast airs on Speaker and available on most other podcast outlets. And that is on every Wednesday. I think you start at 8 o'clock, isn't it, Shawn?
Yes, 8 o'clock Eastern.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, I am happy to have our friend, Shawn Gilmore, on tonight. And, like I said, you as a paranormal investigator, you come from, I call it, an honest background in the sense that you had your own experiences and this is what brought you here. So let's start there. Let's start with, before we get into your spiritual path and that sort of thing, let's start with what was it that really triggered for you to try to understand the paranormal and start your investigations? So.
Well, you know what, being completely honest with you, when I was a kid, when I was a young kid, my best friend and I, we would ride our bikes to the library and we would go and we would read about the paranormal. And we would, that's where I learned about the gray lady. That's the first time I saw the photo. I remember sitting at our table at the library and reading and seeing that photo. And so we would our homes were built by designed by the same guy. He and his son lived like right behind each other, and we lived in a suburb of Cleveland called Shaker Heights, Ohio, and our houses were pretty much identical, except for a few minor details here and there. And so we would kind of like do little investigations when we were kids. Like we would put like his parents' silver in like certain positions and like see if it would move a couple days later. And we would do the same thing at my house, but I would never touch it. And sometimes it'd be different, but who knows? There's 5 people living in the house. Who knows? Anyone could have moved it. But sometimes I wondered if he would move his stuff because his stuff is always moved. And but I don't know. So we'd always do these like little investigations at our homes and stuff. But it was never anything like serious. It was just doing little tests like that, and it was more like games, And then my family moved to a town called Chagrin Falls, Ohio, and we lived in a condo. We were the first kids to live in this condo. These condos were essentially tall brick apartment buildings, and you could actually see on the sign it said it was called the Citadel. It's called, and then you'd see there was like a big white sticker that said adult community only. That was covered with a white sticker. And so we were the first kids to live there. And we were teenagers. And so it's just right when we moved in there, it was just like a weird place. And we had the Chagrin River right across the street. And we had, and so weird things would just happen, right? I'd go to my friend's house, and my mom would ask me the next morning when I come home if I came home and cooked food and left again. And I was like, no, that would be silly. If I would eat in the middle of the night, I'm going to do it at their house and not, And so she would hear people cooking in the middle of the night. and doors would lock, things would move. It was always my favorite band shirts. I wore a lot of band shirts in high school. They would go missing. And so then one day I came home to my sister and her good friend using a Ouija board. And I'm just like, okay, so what's going on? And they're doing it in the stairwell. So they're not, as far to my knowledge, they're doing it in the stairwell of the building, not in our actual home, but in the building. And so,
recipe for trouble.
And not to mention, our family at this point, our family had a lot of things going on. We were now what I know as the perfect storm. We were a broken family. We had a lot of issues, a lot of things going on, a lot of negativity. And then my sister, her friend, bring the Ouija board in, and they somehow invited something else. I believe invited something else. And that goes on to her friend too. Her friend actually ended up having some negative experiences, and her family is Puerto Rican, and they had done, I learned recently, they had done some pretty serious religious ceremonies to get rid of what they brought on. And
wow.
Well, that she believed that it was protecting her for a while.
She believed that the energies that she brought forward were actually protecting her?
Whatever was negative was protecting her. After this book published, because I didn't put any names in here or anything, but after this book published, she came to me, and we talked about it more. And so I learned a little bit more about her side. And she believed that the spirit or the dark energy that they contacted, she believed that it protects her. She still to this day thinks that it protects her. And I told her. But so I keep my distance.
So this building that you moved into, did you know any of the history of this place afterwards? Like you said there's a book that was written. So was this on sacred land, do you think? Something that might have created this energy. I mean, here's two kids who bring in a Ouija board, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, spirits appear. So what's
I
the
wouldn't
story
say it was really all of the sudden. It was they used the spirit board more than once. I found out that they used it when I wasn't home, they did use it in our house. I found out that they even used it in my bedroom.
Great.
Nice.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've seen since all of that, I always felt like something was watching me through the mirrors of the place. It didn't matter what room, where the mirrors were. I took the mirror out of my bedroom. I got to the point where I wouldn't sleep in my bedroom. I didn't know why. I felt completely uncomfortable in my room. It was not okay to be there. I slept on the couch. I had a friend that was with us. She told me to put a ring of salt around where I slept, and I did that.
And did you feel protected?
No, I got attacked in my sleep. I found myself in a situation where I felt like something was trying to get in my body, but it was like a dream, right? So I'm laying there aware that I'm sleeping and something's trying to get in my body. And I'm fighting essentially for my soul.
Right.
And I woke up sitting up and screaming.
How old were you at this time?
I must have been somewhere between 17 and 19.
Okay.
Those years are kind of foggy.
Okay. I find the teenage years, that teenage angst and that energy that we all have. I find, well, for me, I know it was similar in the sense that spirits were very much attracted. I mean, I always spoke to spirits when I was a child, but I thought they were imaginary friends and everybody had them. But anyway, so now with regards to this, it was a condo that you had moved into. Did anybody else in the building experience anything like that? Or was it just because of this Ouija board that was introduced?
No, it was not just because of the Ouija board. I think that escalated it.
Right.
I think that maybe invited it, or maybe that spirit had always been there and it just kind of opened the door, or invited it into our lives more. That just knowing what I know more, as what I know as a paranormal investigator now. If you would have asked me before, I would have been like, yes, that Ouija board brought in that demon, and it caused all this havoc. But now I from what I know now, I would say they probably just made whatever was there, just enhanced it because it made it okay.
Right. They opened the portal. Okay.
Exactly. They invited it. They gave it open invitation into our home, into our lives. So it kind of almost gave it strength, right? More strength.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As soon as you do that, they come through the threshold. You create that portal, they come through the threshold, and here they are.
And
now,
so my mom did talk to some neighbors, and they did have experiences too. The lady below us, she had experiences in her home. I then, as years kind of like passed, other kids did move into there, and thanks, Tom. So,
like shade for the show. Now. Okay.
This is my look now. Isn't it nice? No. Some kids did move into the building as time kind of went on. This one girl, she moved in a couple floors below, and there are these other kids that would come and visit their mom over the weekends. And the one girl who moved there, she did have some experiences. This place is just weird. It's just a weird place. I had friends that had experiences there. There's one friend. Okay, I had moved to Arizona for a while, and I moved back. My mom has multiple sclerosis, so I moved back for her, and when I moved back, I moved in my sister's room. So, and I had my own furniture, so it was nice. They had a big room with the walk-in closet. They had the nicest room that wasn't like the main room. My other room was like a closet, so I had like a couch in there, and so and I had my TV in there. Yeah, I kind of did have my own everything, but my own. Literally, I had a half bath with a stand-up shower, and
nice.
I pretty much had everything but the kitchen, and so so I had my own little space, and it was nice being 22 years old or so and having that space, and then, but I didn't stay there very much longer. I stayed there. First,
driven out by the spirit.
A friend stayed there the night, and my toilet in my bathroom was broken. So he was waiting for the toilet in the hallway outside of my bathroom to be free. Somebody was in the bathroom. He heard somebody in there. The light was on, the door was locked, so he was just waiting. And he said he was waiting, and he was waiting. No one ever came out. And then he said he just looked up, and then the light was off, but no one came out of the bathroom. Now, keep in mind, if my mom was in there,
can't walk.
She's in a wheelchair. He would have seen her come out with her little wheelchair, zooming out, and it's a production for her, you know. And so he said no one came out, but the light turned off and the door unlocked. Just like it was just basically he looked down and looked up.
Wow.
And so he's like, he never, and earlier that night, there was a park across the street, or there is, it's still there. We were going to go and do some fishing in the river. And as we walked up to the river, it was a calm summer night. It wasn't very breezy at all. If there was a breeze, it was very light. We're walking up. As soon as we're walking up to the river, all the bushes every single bush just went. They all just started going crazy. We both stopped, looked at each other, and both said nope, and turned around and went upstairs.
Wow.
And that's not the first experience I had in that park either.
You know, I was just reading what Claire had asked or had said. Was it originally built over a cemetery, or is the history unknown of the land of where that condo stood? Do you know anything about that, Shawn?
I don't.
No?
The history, I haven't lived in the town for a while. I didn't do the research as a teenager. I that's not what I was living there. That wasn't what my concern was. I wasn't into the paranormal.
Right.
I suppose now I do actually have some connections with the historical society there in Sugar Falls, so I probably could.
Yeah.
I did find out a little bit of the history of the park across the street, but not of those apartments. Now, those apartments do have a stream that goes underneath them underground.
Okay, and yes, that could act as
and actually, that's the buildings are sinking. It's been a foundation problem since we lived there. It's probably a bigger problem now from the waters running underneath it. There is behind it is a hill, and up on top of the hill are some very creepy woods, and just past those creepy woods is a large cemetery. So,
I was going to say
there's
you've got a recipe for every type of spirit, or both human and non-human, to show up. In Ifa tradition, many times you have to make sure that there's no river or water running underneath before you do some ceremonies. Because if there are some ceremonies where there's water running,
I was going to say
you have to appease Oloku, because they're considered to be subterranean waters. And those areas are typically ripe with spiritual activity.
Yeah,
I was going to say very conducive to spiritual work, and then you've got a cemetery. Well, there you go, Shawn. I think we figured everything out right now.
I found out even more. There's after I got into paranormal, I had friends from Chagrin Falls reach out to me, and they had experiences where apparently Chagrin Falls has a pretty deep history into Wicca traditions. So there's a lot of spirituality, and there's the Native American history that goes there. So who knows what it is? But there is that, like I said, it's the perfect storm. Another time when I was there, I must have been 20, maybe. Yeah, I must have been like 20. I was walking at the park with a girl I was dating at the time, and we were walking back towards the apartment. You know how parks, they have like the little workout stations as you kind of go. They have like, some will have like pull-up bars. They'll have like a sit-up bench, little workout stations. So we were walking past the sit-up bench, and the sit-up bench, there was a big guy with a hood on over his head sitting there. And I thought it was weird, and it felt weird. I don't know. I didn't know what, but I was like, hey, how's it going? No, just being a young kid, but how's it going? All he did was like, That's all it did. And we both thought it was weird. We both looked at each other and looked back. I don't know why my friends and I always look at each other when weird stuff happens, but that's what we do. It's like, is that what's thing? I don't know, but that's, so we looked at each other, we looked back. Gone. If you were to go and Google the Chagrin, I think it's called River Run Park in Chagrin Falls, you'll see it's a wide open park.
Wow.
There's trees along the edge of the river. That's it. If we would have seen this guy get up.
You would have seen him. Yeah, you would have seen him going somewhere.
We ran there. That's part of what's in the story here. I had a lot of crazy experiences there. Unfortunately, a girl I went to school with, she rented a place there because people did rent them out as apartments individually. And she ended up having a fire in her apartment. and she ended up dying on the way to the hospital of smoke inhalation.
Oh, wow.
And what gets me about this was my first reaction wasn't like, it was, of course, some sadness, but my first thought was, holy crap, they got her.
Oh my God. Isn't that funny? That would be your impression, that they would get her, and you knew that there were spirits there. And this is something that I'm just going to read what Jay is saying. Are the spirits attracted to the water, or does water seem to be yes, Jay. Water acts as a conductor to carry spirits. They speak through the water. It's almost like water is conducive to spirit, a lot more than any other element, if you want to think of it that way, in element as opposed to fire, earth, or whatever. Sure, things can get attached to different objects, etc., space, places, and everything, but water always acts as a conductive, especially when you're doing rituals with regards to misas, for example, in the African traditional, with the spiritistas, they use water, and that acts as almost, you could call it a not just yes, it's a conductor, but almost as if it acts like a magnifier, like a gramophone that magnifies spirits to be able to speak through the water. So that doesn't surprise me at all. So getting back to your story now, Shawn. So this is how you grew up, is living with spirits.
Let me just add one thing to that as well. I think it's important to know, like, also because the water is an element, especially for not just human spirits, but also for spirits that are associated with water, especially subterranean water, like Shawn describes, are always linked to Oloku, and have to do with basically two secrets, right? The secrets of Orisha Oko Nile, Mother Earth, the Earth, and Orisha Oko, which is an Orisha of agriculture, and that, and Oloku, which is really a divinity of water, but the sort of the depths of water, subterranean, very, very deep water. So for both, and Oloku is associated with all the spirits. It is considered to be a divinity, or an Orisha, which has to do with all the spirits, because as we know, how many people die at sea, and so it collects the ocean, the depths of the ocean, rivers, lake, collects all those souls, and basically there's much linkage between Olokun and the world of the spirits. So that question is actually very, very, very important.
Wow.
Yes, no, definitely it is. So getting back to what I was saying, so this is how you basically grew up then, Shawn. You were immersed in dealing with spirits at a very young age, and obviously, from a fear point of view, from a fear stance, and when we're children and being exposed to something like that, I know that would be quite scary. I remember, one of my neighbors, when we did a seance as young children, and I remember she was holding my hand, and she felt very uncomfortable. And I said, we don't have to do this if you don't feel good. Like, for me, it was natural. I wasn't afraid of the spirits at all. But for her, I could really sense there was a sense of fear for her, and trembling too. And I know that some kids are just not open to that, or some people are just not open to that kind of thing, and that's okay. But you definitely seemed like you were very exposed to all of that, and were you okay for the most part for this? What do you think?
That all depends on how you look at, was I okay with all this? It was interesting childhood. It was interesting teenage years. We moved to Chagrin Falls. We were one of 4 or 5 poor families. We were one of, I think, 2 or 3 Jewish families. It was, so we dealt with not only anti-Semitism, we dealt with classism. I would always joke around and say that we moved to a town with a bunch of rich hillbillies. That's so it was just a bad. It was the town. It was a tough time. It was a tough time, and I think that fed off of it, and I think that it made it worse, and it did affect me. It affected me in places, and I didn't even realize it until, again, as I learned more about the paranormal. I would go to friends' houses, and they would have spirits, and I would feel like I was bringing more stuff to their house. Like so whatever was at my house would follow me, and other things. Because there was times when we saw shadows, and especially my one buddy's house, he had some activity where weird stuff would happen. TV would turn on and off. But then when I would come, it would just kind of like double. He would say it would double. It got to the point where he didn't like coming to my house. And so it came that way with a lot of people. And I had people that were greatly affected by coming to my house. There was one girl that came to my house. She was completely like, AKA normal suburban girl. She had a little bit of home problems, but nothing that is crazy, right? But she ended up trying to kill herself in my bedroom.
You're kidding me.
Not at all. Jean-Jerome, I sent you a link to a Google document. And that document, it's my written story that is published in this book. In that story, there's also pictures that I supplied with that story that show the apartment that I lived in and the aerial view from Google Maps of the area. So you guys can get the visual. I'm a visual. So
I think I saw that. Did you send it to me, Jean-Jerome?
No,
it looked like it was in a park.
Sorry?
What was that?
So he just sent it to me now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But wasn't there something about an aerial view that you could see? You were surrounded by parks, right?
Yeah.
From what you could say.
Okay. That was one park. It's like a small park that they have. What it was the old dump that they cleaned up and they turned it into a park.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's what I was told. That's what I was told. That what area was. That was right next door to there is where the city salt dome is, where they keep the winter salt and everything.
Right.
And they ended up cleaning up this dump, and they turned it into a city park. So who knows what all happened in there? No,
exactly. And getting back to this, okay, so this girl goes to your home and in your room tries to commit suicide. Wow. Did at any point in time did you feel like you needed some sort of professional help? Was there something that sparked an urge for you to get someone like I don't know, an exorcism done, get a priest in or someone to help you? Now,
I would talk to my mom.
Take us from there.
I would talk to my mom about it, and she would just say, just ignore it. If you ignore it, it'll ignore you. If you're nice to it, it'll be nice to you. Now, with that being said, I did go to my friend who told me to do the salt. She told me also, if I feel something around and, tell it it's not welcome in your space and to get out. And so I would do that. I would walk into our condo. I'd be like, you're not welcome in here. This is my space. And I close the door. And I go in my bedroom and I would do the same thing. But it wouldn't always listen. That night that I told you about my buddy when the bathroom door locked. We were watching a movie, and brought some snacks from the kitchen. And as I was closing my door, I just kind of like quietly said to myself, you know, you're not welcome in here. Stay out. And I closed the door. The whole energy shifted. My friend even asked, dude, what was that? What was that? I was just like, oh, don't worry about it, man. He's like, no, that is like, it feels weird in here now. What did you do? I was like, oh, I just told the spirit of my house he's not welcome in here. He just looked at me like, huh? And so, then we went back to watching our movie, and I don't, so, but that
interesting.
That escalated. So it went from me just saying stay out to stay the F out, and I'd be cussing it out. And my stuff would come up missing. And I'd be like, what the F did you do with my stuff? And I'm like yelling and cursing it out. So I then added more negative energy to it. I think that I escalated it even more. Right. And my one time, I'll always remember though, my sister and her friend, I came home another time. They were using the spirit board, and they're like, I was like, you know what? Let me try it.
Oh no.
So I tried it. Nothing happened. Nothing.
Really?
Nothing happened. The planchette did not move at all. I was like, whatever, this is stupid. I got up, and that stairwell where they were at, that's where we smoked our cigarettes. And so I was smoking my cigarette. I was like, ask it, because it's like asking yes or no questions. I'm like, ask it why it wouldn't talk with me on the board. And it said couldn't, or it said can't. Right. And I was like, why not? Said confused. I'm confused, though. You can't go through me because I'm too confused. I'm too confused about my beliefs. What is that? What it is? And it went to yes. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I think I'm too strong for you.
Yeah.
I didn't stick around for the response on that.
Yeah. You just got up and left then.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm going to take what Jay is just, Jay Sword. Hi, Jay. Thanks for tuning in. Jay says, my understanding is that if you cuss at it, it feeds off the negativity. Aren't you supposed to do it with love as it repels it? Probably. Well, I don't know. Jay, I look at it this way. I would agree with you in that any kind of energy that you give to it, whether it be negative, whether it be super positive, if you want to look at it that way, if you expel that energy, and when I say expel, you create that energy, that will feed whatever spirit is around you. Okay. So it really doesn't matter whether it's negative or it's positive or whatever. It is an energy. You create an energy, and it is food for another spirit to feed off of. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it will react, and it will react in the way it needs to in order to communicate. So, Shawn, did you at any point in time feel like this spirit or spirits wanted to communicate with you besides using the planchette of the Ouija board?
But just before you ask, he answers that question. Jay's question is very important as well, because there's an underlying tone of that question, which you can't ignore.
No, not to ignore.
The thing is, with Jay is asking, a common misconception when it comes to spirits, and depending on the spirit you're dealing with, whether human or non-human. Mm-hmm. Not everything responds to love. Not everything is capable of understanding or dealing with love. So the one thing that with any type of spirit, until you divine or until you see or until you know exactly what you're dealing with, the fundamental thing is respect and seriousness. You don't joke, you don't ridicule, you don't take it lightly. You don't also try to make it your bosom buddy until you know what you're dealing with. Some spiritualities are meant to help or can come into your life to help. Other spiritualities are not meant to be there and need to be removed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jean-Jerome. And yes, and Jay, I was not making light of the situation. The energy is an energy, and it is what the spirit feeds on. But exactly, it's a respect that you have to have. So with regards to what you were doing, Shawn, did you feel like this spirit wanted to communicate with you? And did you want to communicate with it besides using the Ouija board? Was there at some point in time, like, how did that progress to you wanting to be a paranormal investigator? Because I'm assuming it's because of your past as a child and the things that you've experienced as a teenager that moved you forward in that direction.
For me, well, first, I do want to add your intention on how you talk to and treat spirit is very important. The energy you put out when you're dealing with any spirit is very important. I have learned so much about spirituality. I consider myself more of a spiritual Catholic than Catholic. I call myself a spiritual Catholic. I carry a pouch of crystals. I have crystals at my desk over here. I also have my crucifix. I have my St. Michael medallion and my St. Benedict. So I am a spiritual Catholic. I have learned so much. There's so much more to just one thing. There's a lot of gray areas. So I'm sorry. I felt the need to really say that. The thing saw me, I think, as a challenge. Hence it trying to do what it did when I was sleeping on that couch.
Yes, I think so too. I really do.
Me as a challenge. It wanted in me. It wanted to control me. And for some reason it couldn't. And so it saw me as a challenge. That's personally what I think. It was able to control other people that came into my house. But it wasn't able to control me. Now, did it negatively affect me and help me make some bad choices along the line? Maybe. But I'm not going to give excuses for the bad choices that I made. It sounds like a good idea, though. It's like, yes, I had that extra drink. I had that extra drink because of the spirit in my house. That's a good excuse.
Right. That's your excuse, and you're sticking to it. So, okay.
Oh my gosh. I just realized something. Behind me is a little furry guy. Can I go grab it real quick?
Sure, go
ahead.
Yes.
I love that little furry guy. He's one of my favorite characters.
Oh, yeah. So it doesn't work. It's broken. But this little guy, it's called
Bigfoot.
It kind of does look like a little Bigfoot. So the way that it works is it responds to light. If you were to cover the eyes, it'd make like the beeping noise, go, and the nose lights up. So you can kind of like see little sensors there, right? Pitch darkness, this thing would go off. No lights are on. This is supposed to react by light. It would go off. It would go off all by itself. It would be laying on the ground like this. And it would go off by itself. This thing, I just found this at my mom's house probably about a year ago. I was like, Mom, why do you still have this creepy ass freaking stuffed creature? She's like, oh, I don't know. My mom, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you're a pack rat because now I have this. I'm going to have someone fix it and I'm going to try and use it. This thing, I'm going to try and use it on investigations. I mean, it worked when I was a kid, you know, wouldn't that be cool? So, yeah, this little guy, he looks like an Ewok Bigfoot guy. It's
absolutely.
Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh, Shawn. I'm just waiting for it to say yep nub.
Watch it go off right now.
Ichi mama, yep nub.
Oh.
So was this, whose toy was that, Shawn? Is that yours or your sister's?
Lerdo.
So when we lived in Shaker, we lived with my grandparents. My mom lived in California. This is one of the gifts that my mom sent us when she was in California. So, I don't know. But this thing would scare the crap out of people in our house, and it would scare the crap out of us because it would go off with no reason. And even if I were,
be a reason. I think there would be a reason, definitely, from the sounds of where you lived and the spirits that were around there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, but like all this was before any like paranormal investigators were well known. It wasn't like it was. If I would tell people stories, people would look at me like I was crazy, and they would treat me like I was crazy. So I don't. It was hard, and so I go to my mom. I'm like, Mom, what's the deal? These things are messy. She's like, I know they mess with you, and I know you're having a hard time with it, but you need to ignore it.
Right.
That's all she would say. Just ignore it. It'll go away if you ignore it.
Right.
I'm like,
and did it?
No. What we had to do to get rid of it. What ended up happening,
so tell me, what ended up happening?
So years go by, right? So we lived there, and my mom ended up selling the place, and she got another place, and so we're all kind of like spread throughout Northeast Ohio, and we get this. The same girl who did the spirit board in our house. I bought a trailer off of her.
Okay.
In the trailer park.
Okay.
Really cheap. It was my wife and I were just starting out. It was so cheap. It was an offer we couldn't refuse. So we moved in. And there were like some weird things about the place. You know, like all the mirrors were covered and whatever. And I have like some other experiences. And I was like, whatever.
Okay.
This is before I was baptized. So I lived in this place as I'm going through RCI to become baptized Catholic. And the reason why I got baptized was because I felt like I needed to do more, because I knew I wanted to investigate. I wanted to help people that went through the things that I went through. And so I knew, so it was like a whole spiritual path that I kind of went through.
Right.
And so one night I'm sitting there watching TV, and you know, these modular homes, the living room is here and my daughter's bedroom is here, so I could literally see right into her bedroom. She sat up one night and she's like, no, I don't want to. That's mean. And then she laid back down. And I'm like, I called out to her. I'm like, are you okay? She was sleeping.
No response.
So I got a recorder app on my phone, and I mean, she's now 13, so it wasn't too long ago. We had a digital recorder app, and I asked, "Are you messing with my daughter?" Clear as day. Yes. And I was terrified. So I took the file and I found a paranormal investigator team and I emailed it to them. At this point in time, this is when paranormal teams were getting to be well known. Like I said, I wanted to become one. And it wasn't anyone I knew, but they were like, that is definitely an EVP. Where are you? Who are you? And they started asking me all sorts of questions. I'm like, no, I'm going to deal with this.
Right.
So my mom had a friend in town who she said was a Native American medicine man. And he came into my house, and he said that our family has an attachment. He says our entire family has an attachment. I was like, you know what? That actually makes sense.
Now, your entire family, meaning your current wife and children, or you as a child and your mom? Was this something that was brought forward?
He was saying me, my mom, and my sisters.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's what he was saying.
Get that.
And so, and he said that there's a portal in that house, which kind of, considering who I bought it from, which I didn't even think of it until that moment, honestly. And so he came in. Oh, and I also had a Native American spirit wheel that I purchased in Arizona, hanging up in my. I thought it was a thing for protection, But he said that spirits can attach themselves to it and use it as a way. So he ended up taking that and burying that somewhere or something. I don't exactly know. That's what he said. And then we saged the house. And when we did it, this was right after. I think this was right after I was baptized. It was either right after or right before.
Okay.
I don't know. So yeah, we're talking like 10 years ago. I'm sorry. So yeah, and so that then shortly after that we moved. And I mean,
you
we
moved away from the modular home, this trailer.
Well, we moved from that smaller place to a bigger place because we wanted to have our third child. Right. And our son and our daughter were sharing a room. We didn't want them to share a room anymore. We needed a bigger place. We were outgrowing that place. Yeah. So we went and got that place before we bought this house that we now own.
Right.
So yeah, we cleansed that house and then we went there and then started my paranormal journey. So that's when I learned I was an empath. That's when it was at the very beginning of that journey. It's just the way it all fell together. It's definitely not an accident. I believe I tell people so many things don't happen on accident. I believe in fate. For lack of better terms, I believe in fate. Things happen for a reason. My wife and I met for a reason. All these things fall into place
I do too.
For a reason. And I found out.
I believe that too, Shawn.
Yeah. The way
Shawn, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the way I found out I was an empath. Do you want to hear that story, or are we not ready for that yet?
Yeah, go ahead, Teresa. There are a couple of questions lined up. So
I was just going to say, when you say empath, to me, that means you have a natural gift, an intuitive gift that I would say is more on the side of being a medium as opposed to being, I mean, that's a certain characteristic of being a medium is to be empathic. But I think for you, you have a natural tendency as a medium, and therefore spirits are attracted to you. And I think that this runs in your family, from your sister, from your mother. This is something that is ancestral, I would say, and actually familial, not familiar, familial, that this runs in your family. And this is a gift that you have. This is why I believe you have this gift. It has presented itself, and where you now have, and it's led you to be a paranormal investigator. Now, yes, tell me how that happened and how this links to you actually converting from Judaism to Catholicism, because I'm sure that these two are tied in together. So go ahead. Oh, sorry. I just want to allow Jean-Jerome to say what he's going to say, and then to look at what Claire had wanted to say. Go ahead, Jean-Jerome, before we get back to that question.
Okay, so we got a couple of questions, and things are picking up in terms of interesting comments and questions. So
yes.
Claire was, the more you ignore a spirit, the more they will try to get your attention.
Absolutely.
Ken Allen says, I'm curious, what do you do to protect yourself and clean yourself during and after investigation? I'm leaving in the morning to perform an exorcism for a couple that do paranormal investigation. They don't have a good idea or method of protecting, prevention, and cleansing. I'm helping them with all of it. What is, if any, your method or methods? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, bags of goodies.
Oh, bags of goodies. Okay. So before we get into the spiritual aspect and how you became a paranormal investigator and how your spiritual belief had changed, let's answer those questions, shall we? So in order to answer Ken Allen's question, given the fact that you're a paranormal investigator, what is it that you do yourself to protect yourself before going on an investigation?
Before every investigation, I shield myself. I've learned to shield. I pray. I pray to, I pray to my spirit guides. I ask them to protect and guide me. I pray to the Lord, and I pray to Saint Michael. And if I feel like other angels, I've called other angels to me as well. But I shield, and I use the intention of nothing negative is allowed in or around me. However, I want to know what's around me. I want to experience what's around me. And so depending on the place I'm at is how I change the intention of my shielding. For instance, the last investigation I did, I kind of do like a white light of fairly light glow, welcoming glow to I want to bring, I want to see welcoming. I want spirits to be attracted to me. Now there was one job that I worked, I would do a mirror. So anything would bounce right off of me. I would feel nothing around me. I was not aware of any energy. And if you use these intentions, it's crazy how well it worked. I did not believe it, because you're taking energy from the ground and you're building a shield and you're building an intention. Which is it's like using your imagination almost. I don't know another way to explain it, because I'm just like a regular guy, right? And so you're building it, and it's just like weird. It works. Like, you build these shields, it works. You build your intention, and it works, and it keeps it. And for me, it protects me, and nothing negative in or around me, and nothing's allowed to attach themselves to me. And then afterwards, I say another prayer, whether if it's there on location or if it's right before I go inside my house, because I'm very mindful of my family. But if I do need, I also have my crystals. Let's see I keep them in my bedroom, but I have some here. I have a
perfect.
You know what? I just got this new amethyst skull.
Ooh. Oh, I love that. Do you take him with you on investigations?
I just got him. He needs to go and sit through a full moon phase before I do anything with it. But I literally
cleanse him and everything, and then charge him and give him a purpose to protect you and whatever. No, totally. Yeah. You're totally on board, Shawn.
And then I've learned a lot, and so I have this cat's eye here for grounding. I think that those, and then I have an old amethyst skull, but I do use crystals. I have an Apache tear that I wear around my neck that a good friend of mine made for me.
Perfect.
So, but I also have a crucifix. I have the crucifix and chain that I was baptized in. So my wife had it blessed by the priest to give it to me as a gift, and then I was baptized in it. So it's like double blessed,
protected.
It's like double blessed, right? So and actually I have a weird story about that one from a past investigation, but so depending on what it is, I also have Saint Michael pendants, and I have in my home. I have a crucifix with a St. Benedict medal on it for extra protection. All of them have been blessed by priests.
I use that in exorcisms myself.
And that's what St. Benedict is used for. So
absolutely.
But I also cleanse my house. And what I use to cleanse my house, sometimes it's a client's house. My favorite thing to use, of course, is sage. I love white sage. So that's what this bag is. This is a bag of loose.
Of goodies?
Loose.
Is that part of your
sage.
Goodies?
Oh, yeah. It's just
nice.
Just a loose sage. It's just a big old bag of, like it's not even, it's like
oh, nice.
Sage. All nice, just loose white sage. And then my favorite thing to mix with it.
What?
Cedar.
What is it?
Cedar.
Oh, yes. Cedar for sure. Cedar is extremely protective. I love it.
So I do that. And I have other sages too. And
You know exactly what to do, Shawn.
Yeah.
Do you
And
put it in an abalone shell? Do you put
I
an
do.
abalone shell and use
I
like a
do
feather
right
and
now.
do the whole smudge?
I do, and I have a smudging feather that I use that has a black onyx
Perfect.
attached to it. Um, and I
You
wish
know
I
your
could
stuff,
show that
Shawn.
to you. I wish I could show that to you, but it's actually in my car. I just did an impromptu investigation yesterday, and
Okay.
I always keep a little emergency sack of sage with, and I always bring my shell whenever I do that, just in case.
Yeah.
So all that is upstairs.
Emergency kit
I also,
in my purse. Yeah.
I also have a bottle of holy water that I use. I have Catholic holy water. I also have moon water that was given to me by a good friend, and then I also have this spirit water that another friend put together for me that I have
Nice.
only used once, but it seemed to have really worked in the
Nice.
house that I did the staging in. And then if I feel the need, I always keep a little bit of
Palo Santos.
yes. Always keep a little. I
Perfect.
don't know. It's just you never know what you're gonna need, and kind of listen to
It's
my.
almost like a kit. It's like an
It is.
paranormal investigator's kit.
Oh,
I have one too. You know, if I'm going to go do an exorcism, I have a whole different bag of tricks that I take with me.
you have to. I'm not one of those people that's in. I'm not. I don't like the term ghost hunter. The reason why I don't like the term ghost hunter is because I'm not out hunting ghosts. I'm
Right.
out. I want to gain communication.
Investigate.
And I'm respectful. I want
Perfect.
to learn more so I can help people. That's when I go to the famous locations, the historical locations. It's for really two reasons. One, to help support those locations because they need the donations, and two, because each interaction is a learning experience. So that's why in my bio I mentioned the Monroe House. That's in Indiana. That house is insane. It's insane. I've never been to a place like that, and it's a house.
Really?
You go to that house and you feel like you're in a cemetery, but it's a house. If you were to go there blindfolded and you were to guess where you were at, you would not guess you're at a house. You would guess that you're at a cemetery just because that's how it feels when you're there.
Wow. And how far is that from your home for you to go?
A couple hours away, 3-4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. That's not too bad. I'm just going to read what Ken Allen says. Good, excellent. I wish more investigators would take steps to protect themselves. Well done. Yet those things do work. I especially like the methods of protection you're going to use based on case-by-case basis. You have much potential in the magical community. Absolutely. I think so. I think Shawn's got a good basis in knowing what to do, and he knows his stuff, especially when it comes to paranormal investigators, because you'd be surprised, Shawn. I know for myself what I do to protect myself, but there are people out there that run around doing investigations and they haven't a clue what they're doing. They have nothing, no protection, no nothing, and then something serious happens to them, and then it's like, oh my God, now what? Well, right?
Right.
So I think it's important. And I'm going to take one more before we continue on with our conversation here, because I want to move forward with our show with regards to the spiritual path that Shawn had taken and the result of that. So one more question for Jean-Jerome. What is the IFA view on the ideology? Sorry, I'm going to reread this again. Jean-Jerome Baudry, what is the IFA faith view on the ideology of on birth we were born? Okay,
I'll read it.
Okay,
what is the IFA faith view on the ideology of at birth or on birth? Are we born con un muerto assigned to? So
Okay.
In
Thank you.
Ifa, as everybody who's tuning in knows, has many lineages, many cultures in which it basically manifested and was practiced. The reverence for what we call the Joto is very prevalent in Jisa, Fa, Ifa, Jisa, or Fa, Jisa, Fagbasa, especially in Abomey and Benin, among the Vodun Fa people. Interestingly enough, as we've commented in many shows, the Fa corpus, Afro-Cuban Ifa corpus, is strongly influenced not just by Yoruba or Nigerian or Yoruba Ese-Ifa or traditions or lineages, but also very much so by the Jisa school. Okay, and again, there were 4 major schools of Fa, which basically from which everything else, all the lineages sprang from. The one most commonly practiced in Nigeria is Gongong. The one among the Yoruba, the one most prevalently practiced in center to north of what is today Benin, or the kingdom of Dahomey, in Abomey, was Jisa. And then you had Abokobi, which was practiced very heavily in Togo, south of Benin, and is considered to be a mix, or Afa and Ato as well, which is considered to be a mix as well. So in the Jisa part, the Joto plays a very prominent role. In Ifa, in the Afro-Cuban Ifa corpus, although masked and hidden because of language and terminology, there are 7 Odus that I've been able to isolate, that it's clearly talking about the ancestral guiding spirit. In other words, the chief ancestor, which is not necessarily, very seldom, is a blood relative, which is in charge of guiding the person when and accompanying the person or on their journey to Earth, together with the Orisha Laboratory, together with the path of Eshu that corresponds to their destiny, or Odu Vifa, etc. One is the Odu is where they appear as Obedi, which is appropriate because an Obedi is where we say a person chooses their destiny by basically bowing before Lodumare and choosing the destiny that they're going to live in life, which is Ayanmo Akulegba Akuleyan. There is Obeka, where it basically says, as part of appeasing the planets and the nature and other elements of the universe, chief among them is to basically pay tribute and appease your ancestral spiritual guide, or what in Spanish the espiritista is called a guía espiritual. The third Odu, where it's prevalent, is Oyekum Meiji, again, which speaks to all the mysteries of death and life, and is where we believe in Ifa, where death came down to earth for the first time. Okanran Sode, Okana Ogbe, Okanran Otura, where again, Okanran Otura, the ancestral spiritual guide, is sought out by the character in the Apataki as the only source of resolving his problem. In other words, before he can even go to any other power or any other he must go to the ancestral spiritual guide. Oshetura and Ofun Meiji. So just to give you, so definitely it is within the Afro-Cuban corpus. It definitely is very prominent, central to the Jisa and Fagbasa practice, as we've been for the last 7 years researching with Boko no Dafoji, Dania Barreros in Uruguay, who was initiated in Abomey, and definitely plays a central role in the Jisa in Vodun Fa in that area. So I hope that helps, and we'll continue.
Yes, thank you. So what was the question again? So yes, so moving forward, Shawn, moving forward as far as your interest in being a paranormal investigator, you had mentioned you being baptized. So your spiritual path then took a turn from what you were initially, let's say, following a religion of Judaism to Catholicism. What prompted that? Was this part of your paranormal investigations that that had a play in this?
No, I didn't. I didn't start investigating until I got myself spiritually right.
Okay.
I had a lot of questions that were unanswered, and I wasn't able to get the questions answered. I suppose maybe I was going to the wrong people, because I have now since learned that in the Jewish faith, they do have the answers that I was looking for. It's just I was going to the wrong person, wrong people for it, and I wasn't finding it. And I was able to find the answers through Catholicism. I was able to find the protection I was looking for through Catholicism. And honestly, that's where I met Archangel Michael. You know, that's where I met that path. First of all, I need to say I was not bar mitzvah. I never had a bar mitzvah. My family didn't pay for it. My family was not very religious. And we did the high holy days, and that was pretty much it. So that's, you know, Passover and Hanukkah. What is it? Oh, I can't even think of them now. It's been so long. And
Yom Kippur?
Grandfather's probably, yes, Yom Kippur.
Yes.
So yes, if I were to think long enough, I'd remember them all. That's like most of my childhood. But man, my grandfather's probably rolling over right now. But what are you going to do? So
yes,
I wasn't there. I didn't feel the connection to the Jewish faith. So I found it. My wife is Catholic. It was just an easy path, and I was kind of like led down that path. And so I went
for a reason.
I was, and it ended up being a very spiritual experience that I went through, becoming Catholic. And it was, I don't even know if I could fully really explain it. I was in church and I felt this energy, and I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what I was feeling, but I felt this great energy coming off of this one couple in front of us one time at church. And it was just the most amazing thing. And so it was just
nice.
It just
nice
so
for
turned
you
into
to
this great thing.
that, for sure.
And so then I go through RCI, and the guy who taught it was great. But now I don't want to go to church.
No.
Since my total opinion of it has changed. One time I went to church, and and this is after I was baptized, and I didn't like certain things about it after going a while. First of all, people were rude about my children, which I didn't appreciate. And then on top of that, they started telling me how to vote. I'm like, I don't go to church for you to tell me how to vote. I don't care if I agree with you or not. You don't tell me how to vote. Don't be like, what would Jesus do when you're at the polls, or even think, how would Jesus want you to vote? Jesus wants me to have my own opinion. That's what he wants.
No
he
kidding.
doesn't want me to listen to you. What the hell? You just totally ruined this all. I'm like, I'm done. And so now
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
They feel the need to go. I'm like, church to me, it's not politics. Church to me, it's a connection to the higher power. It's a connection to God. And that's what religion
nothing to do with politics.
Right. And that's what I think religion is supposed to give us, is that connection
Absolutely.
to the higher power. Doesn't matter what you want to call it. You can call it God. You can call it Jesus. You can call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it the tree next to you. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's, to me, the higher power. It's the connection to the spirit.
Absolutely. Good for you, Shawn, to recognize that.
And so it just totally turned me away. I'm like, this isn't a business. And then I found out that they were like tracking us by our donations. So that was like my first step. Like, okay, I'm not using these.
I'm done.
They bail us anymore. No, I stopped using the envelopes. So by the time when our son was born, they're like, oh, but we don't see that you have been very active in church. I'm like, what do you mean we haven't been active? Well, the donation envelopes. We haven't seen your name. I'm like, that's because I donate in cash and I put it in the basket in cash. Sorry, you don't put your name on an envelope. Is that a problem?
Yeah.
And it was. It was a problem.
Oh my God.
So yeah, they say,
My God.
Yeah. So
no, that's just crazy.
Your activity is your donations, and that's why they give you your envelope with your name and your address so they can track your activity in church and the church community. So I'm sorry that ruined it for me. It wasn't a spiritual experience anymore. It's now politics. It's now a business. And I'm now back to, now I'm a spiritual Catholic. So I still have St. Michael. I still pray.
Perfect. And you know what? That's the best way to be. I think I would consider myself a spiritual Catholic as well in that sense. I like going to church, but that's on my terms. And if I donate, I donate.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'll donate on a holiday, like, here's $5, whatever. But we go to a different church now when we go, we lost her.
Yeah. It's okay. She probably either her battery. Oh, there she is. Or a cat.
Or a cat.
Whoa, what the hell just happened? I had a weird moment of suddenly my internet just went. That was odd. Sorry.
Storm weather?
No, it was raining a little bit.
Okay.
Earlier when I came home. I don't think so. No storm. All
right.
Anyway.
So yeah, so I now back to, if I feel like I need a connection, I'm now back to going to the woods or a tree in my yard, and that's where I find my connection is in nature. That's how I've always been. It just I had to go through the spiritual journey to really find that, and I'm glad that I found that, because I was able to have that spiritual connection, recognize that spiritual connection, and then as I was doing that, and after I went through this, I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to do this paranormal thing. Let's go. Let's do this, right? So I'm like, yeah. So I actually got in contact with a local psychic medium, and I went and we were talking like back and forth on Facebook, whatever, and I went to one of her events, and it was a public ghost hunt, and she was going to do a room reading, but not a lot of people showed up. Again, fate. Only a mother and a daughter. I think it was 3 groups altogether. I went by myself because my friends want nothing to do with this. It's so funny.
They didn't want to have anything to do with it, right?
No. We were
chickens.
I asked my friends if they were interested. Well, one night we were all together. I'm like, hey guys, we should do this. They all looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, no, like flat out, no. I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing it. And so I went on this. The first one I did was like a tour of one of the big cemeteries downtown Cleveland, Ohio. And then I went and connected with Laura Lynn, who is a psychic medium around here. And so she's just like, you know what? We were sitting at a table. There was just enough of us to fit around a table. She decided that we were each going to do a 1-card reading on each other.
Interesting. Okay, good for her.
I'm like,
okay, you're in for
whatever. I don't know.
For a pound, eh, Shawn?
So it comes to my turn. The pile, the tarot, and here's the thing: I had tarot cards. When I turned 18, a good friend of mine took me to a bookstore and was like, pick out your tarot deck. And I actually still have it right here. And so,
what is it? What is it? The Rider Waite?
No, this is
traditional.
What? Of course, it's got the Hebrew lettering on it because I was.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is
nice.
Yeah,
good for you.
So yeah, I still have I've had this.
You still have it
for years. This thing has been to Arizona and back with me. It's such a
wow.
So you can see it's got Hebrew letters on each card, and then it's got the rune symbols on the other side. So
nice.
And then the images are just really nice artwork. And then
I love it.
Each card has like an alien eye.
Ooh.
Isn't that cool?
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Ooh. Okay.
So I was no stranger to tarot. Like I was like, okay. Well, I've done tarot readings before, but I was a cheater.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
A little book.
Right.
She's like, there's no book. You're just gonna look at the card. You're gonna look at the image of the card that you pick out,
and go for it.
Feel it. You're gonna feel the card, and you're gonna look at the picture. So I'm looking at this picture, and I'm looking at the person in front of me. I'm looking at the card. I'm looking at the person in front of me. I'm like, okay, so this is what I see. And I started explaining what I see. And then I was like, oh, there's a lot of pain and fear. And the next thing I know, I'm like sucked in, and like tears are coming down my eyes. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, are you sick? What? Like there's and she starts crying. And like so she's like, so the psychic had to be like, Shawn. And she had to talk me down. And
right. Because
she
you got
looked at me, right.
Sync.
She's like, Shawn, you are an empath.
Yes.
And they ended up giving everybody there a book on opening up spiritually, and that's it. And as soon as I found out what an empath was, and I learned all about that, that was like the biggest aha moment of my life. It made so many things make sense that I had no clue about. It just made everything make sense. Because when you are feeling these things,
for you.
yeah, it was just the craziest thing. Like, I had no clue. I had no clue what these feelings were that I was having when I was a young kid.
See, natural, innate ability born into your fabric.
When I was a young kid, I would go 2 summers in a row. I went to overnight camp. It was a Jewish overnight camp, and we would go for a month out of the summer. And 1 year, the reason why it's important that there's a Jewish overnight camp was because 1 year, 4th of July, it was on a Friday, which is the Sabbath. So we could not do 4th of July because it was the Sabbath. We didn't get to see fireworks. We didn't do anything. So they decided that we were going to meditate.
Okay.
So meditating
on 4th of July on a Friday.
All of a sudden, I got this feeling like something was wrong at home. I was not homesick. I did not want to go home, but something was wrong at home. Something was wrong. Something was wrong. That's all that's going through my mind. Keep in mind, I'm like 10 years old. All I'm thinking is there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I went and I told a counselor, I'm like, there's something wrong at my house. I need to call home. No, you're just homesick. I'm like, no, I don't want to go home. I'm having fun, but I need to call home. I need to call home. They're like, no. They're like, you know what? And they're like, you know, it happens. You know, kids, especially in their first year, they get homesick. I'm like, I'm not homesick.
I'm not homesick. Listen to me. Yeah.
Right. They're like, you know what? I'll tell you what. Just sit here on the side of this hill by yourself. Get yourself together, and when you're ready, come back and join us. So here I am sitting on the side of this hill trying to figure out, why do I feel like there's something wrong at home? Why won't they let me call home? All I want to do is call home. This is so stupid. And then so finally I got to the point where I was just like, whatever. I'm just going to go in there. Whatever. So that time passed. And I actually fell asleep during the meditation. And so my mom comes and picks me up from the temple where they picked us all up. Actually, it was the JCC. I don't know. Either way, my mom comes and picks me up, driving my great-grandmother's Ford LTD. I'm like, oh, that's what happened. Great-grandma died. That's what that feeling was. Great-grandma died. I'm sitting in the back seat of this car thinking, holy crap, great-grandma died. That's what it was. So we get to my mom's apartment. Like I said, back then, on the weekends, we were at my mom's. And I don't know if I explained that. I lived with my grandparents. My mom moved back from California during this transition before we moved to Sugar Falls. So we were in a transition. We were going to visiting my mom every weekend before all that happened. So we're at my mom's apartment now, and she takes me into her bedroom, and she tells me on the 4th of July, great grandma died alone in her apartment of a heart attack.
Aww. How heartbreaking. And you felt that.
Kitchen table. I felt that. I had no clue. When she told me, I was more like, how the hell did I know that? That was like the freakiest thing that ever happened to me as a kid. I could not explain it. I didn't tell anybody. I thought it was insane. I had no clue. And so then other things built up to then next thing I knew, my friend and I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. We start talking about ghosts, and we start doing things, and then we moved to Sugar Falls and all that. I never even put it all together until, again, I went down this path. And it's crazy how all the pieces of the puzzle come together. And it's just like I've always had this connection with death and spirit. There was another time before when my kids were really young, before I was baptized, we were out Christmas shopping for my kids, and we came home, and my wife and the kids were in the car, and it was cold. You know, I was trying to get the door open for them. I put my hand on the doorknob. I went to my wife. I was like, you guys need to wait here. Underneath our Christmas tree, our cat died. Right underneath the Christmas tree.
Oh, wow.
I knew that they needed to wait outside just by touching the doorknob.
Wow.
I had no clue, again, what it was to be an empath and how crazy all this was. So,
wow.
All these things all now are coming together. All of these things are making sense on why all these things happen. Why I was able to feel these. Why I was able to tell somebody was lying, and why I was able to read people. Like, I knew spot on, that dude is bad news. I need to stay away from him. Like, I knew, like,
yes.
I like somehow, like, I never understood any of that. And so I didn't learn that until I was what? 20 no 30. I was around 30 years old, so I'm now 40. So yeah, I was just a little bit over 30 when I learned I was an empath, and I got into the paranormal, and I've been doing that. So but
it's interesting.
I knew how it's like crazy how much I knew to trust my instinct, though, because my instincts told me, get yourself right spiritually, get into the paranormal. This is what you're supposed to do. That, like, I felt it, but you got to get yourself ready. You got to make sure you're protected. It's like I didn't know about protection. I didn't know that. I still Ken Allen said, there's investigators that are out there. They don't protect themselves at all.
They don't have a clue.
After they have the most crazy experiences on investigations, and they have even said, I probably should, but I don't. I'm like, dude, not only are you putting yourself in danger, you're putting your family in danger. And not only are you putting yourself and your family in danger, you're putting me in danger and everyone that's with you.
Good for you, Shawn.
No. People don't get it. I don't get you. This guy, I mean, there's so many investigators that have been doing this for years, and they still don't. I'm like, how do you not? How do you not? You wear Thor's hammer around your neck and you don't. And it doesn't matter. That's so many investigators. There's so many people. You're gonna wear a Catholic cross around your neck on an investigation, and you're not gonna pray before or after? How? You're talking to spirits.
Yeah,
you
I know. But Shawn, part of the problem is that, I mean, the world of paranormal investigation is not my area of expertise. So I put that out first and foremost. I leave that more to Teresa, which has more experience, and to yourself, Shawn. But from what I've seen in the little time that I've talked to or seen other paranormal investigators either present their findings or 60% of them have no sight. 60% of them have no empathic capability. You could have an army of spirits parading right next to them and they wouldn't feel a thing.
It's true.
Right? So they're obtuse, right? Like they're completely obtuse and insensitive to the spirit world. So in those situations, they're they're curious, but they're curious in a quasi-scientific and whatever sensational way. But in terms
dangerous.
of feeling, in terms of really going in, like if they really could see, if they really could feel, and if they really had a sense,
dangerous.
And if the places they were looking or investigating really had spirit, either human or non-human,
dangerous.
They wouldn't play around.
No. And you know what? It's so true. I wanted to say something before, but in what you just said, Jean-Jerome, it's so true. So many of these paranormal investigators, a lot of them do it because they're thrill seeking or they want to see if there's really something to it or not. And they don't have the gift of sight. They are not empathic. Okay. And they go into these things and they create situations like we've all seen those ghost stories on TV and the shows where they cause the spirits, they what am I trying to say?
Been on some of those shows.
What's that?
I've been on some of those shows.
Okay, well, whatever. But they incite the spirits, they get them excited, etc. And they don't understand what is happening at that point in time and what they're doing, okay? Because someone in their group is an empath, is an intuitive, is a medium, and they're going to have problems. And this is what people fail to understand. And then they come home and then they bring the spirits home. Like Ken Allen had said, he's now going to go and try to get rid of a spirit or spirits that have attached themselves to paranormal investigators who haven't a clue what they're doing. But eventually it becomes so obvious that it is disruptive in their lives. Okay.
Right.
And hence Ken is now having to go and deal with an actual exorcism. But getting back to, I think, Jean-Jerome, there was a lady who had put a comment, Sanchez. Sorry, I didn't catch her first name.
Yes,
but
Sylvia,
she made an...
Sylvia is my cousin who lives in, my mom's niece who lives in Florida.
Okay. She said, I started having empath discoveries in 3rd grade. Okay. And what I wanted to say when I saw that was, to a large extent, regardless of paranormal investigators or not, the problem is that in most families and in most society, people do not acknowledge those who have gifts, empathic, spiritual gifts, who are natural born mediums. There are cultures that do nurture, but to a large extent, it is ignored. And my feeling is, and especially when it comes to the traditional religions, they are actually told to downplay or to ignore. You yourself, Shawn, said your mother said to ignore them. The Judaism, Christianity in general, Catholicism, I don't know about Islam. I'm not too familiar. Maybe they do embrace it more. I don't know. But to a large extent, we are always told not to. It's almost as if it would create some sort of rift, okay, and it's demonized. Instead of really dealing with the situation, because I know myself coming to terms with that. I was fortunate. I had a mother who did believe in spirit. She didn't make a big deal of it, okay? And our brand of Catholicism, growing up Polish, it was a little bit different. But the point I'm trying to make here is that culturally, our society does not embrace people with natural born gifts. And this is why there's so many problems with people who have spiritual attachments, who have problems spiritually that later develop into psychoses only because they have never really addressed them or embraced their natural gifts. That's what I believe. So I just wanted to say something to that effect and to acknowledge that. And thank you, Sylvia Sanchez, for bringing that to the attention, because yes, when we're young, this is when we become exposed to all of that. We are experiencing these things. And if it's not nurtured, it is quelched and it becomes a problem. Yeah. Anyway, we'll take it from there.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because when I was going through the baptism, the guy who taught it, he said that when we're a kid, spirituality, your glass is full. And as you get older, it gets less and less. I was like,
interesting. Why would you say that?
Well, he was saying that basically you have to work at it as you get older, because when you're a kid, you're naturally connected.
Okay.
Then he's talking about to God. But to me, it's now being an adult, or not adult, but being further down the line of this, it's a spirituality. And it goes the same way to me. If you have, when you're a child, your beliefs are, and your mind is open, your eyes are open, and you don't realize it. And as you get older, you're told and you're taught things that go against these things that you're open to.
Taught. Yes. You're guided and taught.
Yes.
And that's what takes us away from our natural intuitive gifts. I want to read what Beth has to say here. I had a very uncomfortable attachment, and I thought it might, my eyes are starting to not see small.
I'll read it for you.
And I thought I might lose my mind, but luckily it only lasted 3 days. At the time, I had no concept of protection. It felt as if something was inside me and was looking out through my eyes. Yes, I remember, Beth, you had told me that on one of your experiences. But it made me see things differently. It was very disturbing. Yes, exactly. And see, this is exactly the type of thing that I was talking about and referring to, is if we're not nurtured and guided properly, we have things like this happening to us, okay? Because we're never really taught that. We're taught to quelch it, to ignore it, Thank you, Beth, for bringing that up. That's a perfect example of what we were talking, or what I was referring to. Ken Allen said, "You have my respect, Shawn. You're a good man, a caring and legitimate investigator. Ashe." Yes, exactly. Thank you. You're right. Shawn, no, it's true, Facebook user. Who is Facebook?
That's Vianney. That's Vianney. She's commenting within the Consejo group. So it doesn't show her identity.
Okay. I agree with Teresa. I was personally told since I was 5 that I didn't have the ability to see the things I was experiencing. Exactly. And then suddenly we're told as kids, oh, you know what, it's your imagination, or it's this or whatever. No, it's not. These are normal things to feel. And someone telling you it isn't, bullshit, okay? They're speaking out of fear. They're speaking of something that they know nothing of. And I believe that these intuitive gifts, they run in the family. They really do. It's a natural born, DNA imprinted genetic material within yourself, okay? Yes, it can be nurtured in anyone, but I think when we're this young, okay, like yourself, Shawn, like myself, like Sylvia Sanchez, like Vianney, like so many others, we have that gift, and we are often told that we're imagining these things, or it's not so, and that I think is extremely wrong. And I think now moving forward in our society, we as adults, we're taking responsibility for that, and it's time we own that, okay? And hence why we have this whole channel and this network that we've created through our show, is to make sure that you, me, Shawn, everyone else, we acknowledge that we are alternative people. We have alternative spiritual paths. We came from the traditional and we've come forward because we have these gifts and we can connect with one another and understand. This is the generation. We are the generation that's going to be moving forward. We have children, or we know of children. We need to nurture that and bring them along and tell them it's okay to be different. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Definitely.
Jay, I want to see what Jay has to say here. I was told that the things I saw were demons and I was terrified. I can relate to what others are saying. Exactly, Jay. And you know, everything that we see not necessarily is really pretty, especially when we're empathic, when we have the intuitive gift, you know. And someone needs to tell us that, yeah, there's going to be bad shit out there. There's going to be boogeymen. There's going to be demons. But you are going to be okay, because we will take your hand and we will teach you. We will tell you how to protect yourself. Shawn, you were lucky and fortunate that you found through your own experience. And I think that was divine intervention by your own ancestral guides and spirits that brought you to a spiritual path, that you were able to look and make your own discerned decision on being a spiritual Catholic, as opposed to a church going, let's collect the money and let's tell everybody, not, you don't have a gift and what you have is demon and what. No, enough is enough of that stuff. Right. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on that subject. I'm going to get off my freaking podium here. Jean-Jerome, you look like you have something to say. Go ahead,
well,
Jean-Jerome.
As we've been saying, this is the main reason why the purpose of Ancestral Eyes is to extend that friendship, that hand in friendship and community. So people that, you know, are going through, young people, hopefully, who tune in at any age, that have been discriminated, that have been, you know, sometimes put through. I remember, this is the eve of my mom's birthday. In about 8 minutes would have been my mom's 84th birthday. She passed away 5 years ago. So I remember she had an old friend of hers that was her friend till death. He died 3 years before she did, and they were friends since the age of 4. And that young man, his name was Edelberto Perez Cañete. And when he was young, he had the ability to see and all that. But the family thought it was, you know, misdiagnosed, or thought it was, you know, some form of psychosis or schizophrenia. And he had to receive, they gave him electroshock. And electroshock was a common treatment decades ago, when other antipsychotic medication was not available, because they literally tried to shock, you know, the visions out of you. And I'm just, you know, in context, I'm just, you know, thinking of all the generations of people across millennia that have been discriminated against, and, you know, their lives made almost a living hell for a gift that they have and a mission that their ancestor came with, to bring either healing or knowledge or open doors for people, right? Through whatever spiritual traditional expression. That's why it bothers me sometimes. Like, that's why I think people in, like, doing paranormal investigation, or if you're going to do anything, whether it be, you know, mediumship, whether it be Ifa, whether it be, do it in earnest, do it seriously. Don't do it as entertainment. Don't do it for thrill seeking. These are not, you know, things for, you know, circus or entertainment value. These are real life. These are people's lives. These are people's destiny.
Absolutely.
And these are, you know, the dreams, messages, and teachings that are passed on from generation to generation. They should not be trivialized. That, you know, giving foot, right, to then other groups for their own self-interest, to try to suppress, repress, discriminate, or, you know, lock people up or lock people out in terms of their, you know, natural gifts that they can express through whatever spiritual lineage they wish to.
No, I totally agree with you, Jean-Jerome. And Shawn, good for you that you are one of those paranormal investigators that actually does the right thing. You do your prayers, you go in with the intention of protection, with the intention of communicating with the spirit and really sensing what's needed out there. Now, so getting back to your actual paranormal investigations, you said yourself that you sometimes go into investigations with others that don't do any of this. Now, would you say that is it because they're just thrill seeking or are they just really naturally curious? I know one of our mutual friends, Gooseby, he seems like a person who's very serious and he's had his own experiences, and I gather from him he has a spiritual aspect to his investigations as well. I've noticed that with you, Shawn. Most of the people that hang with you do. Okay, so can you sort of elaborate on that? Are there people that you've come into contact with that don't, let's say, and what's been the fallout from that?
Well, first, I want to add just real quick with a lot of these TV shows you guys talked about, like everyone's demon. Well, these TV shows, they also push the demon thing because demon scary and fear sells. That's why I think Hollywood does it. That's why I think these TV shows do it. They really push the fear aspect of it. For me, it's about teaching people, you know what, it doesn't necessarily always have to be scary. I try to, and it's a hard thing to wrap your head around, and I try to help my kids with that. We have a woman in my house, and she protects us, and I try to tell my kids that she's not scary, and when they get older, they'll learn. To them, they don't understand it, and it's scary. So it's about teaching that. Now, I've talked to investigators about why they don't do the prayers or the protection. Some say because they don't think they need it. They just aren't believers. They aren't spiritual in any way. One guy I know doesn't believe in God at all. He doesn't think that there's anything that can be done to protect them either. So what are you going to do? I've had other people say, I don't want to be saged before an investigation. I don't want to do any of that protection stuff before an investigation because then I won't have any experiences.
Interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what. Go back, Ectovision Paranormal, the team that I was on before Dark Alley. We made documentaries. They're on YouTube. Look up Ectovision, one word, Ectovision Paranormal. And you will find one documentary on this RCI in Indiana. We did an experiment where Amber and I were saged before the investigation, and Eric, the team leader, was not. And
and
pretty big experiences. So I don't know. I feel like we kind of disproved that theory. I think that like I said, it's about intention. I will tell everybody it's about intention. People ask me how I feel about the Ouija board. I tell them, you know what? It's your intention. And if you are using it properly, if you're doing it with the right intentions, there's nothing wrong with it. But that goes with investigating. Doesn't matter if you're doing an EVP session, if you're doing dowsing rods, if you're using a pendulum, if you're using a spirit board. It doesn't matter. If you are in there with the wrong intentions, then you are putting yourself in harm's way. That's how I explain it. That to me, you're asking for communication from spirit. So people believe that Ouija boards are more of a gateway and they're more dangerous than using your dowsing rods. Honestly, I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
It's all personal experience. It really is. And like you said, if you set that intention, if
you go to a location or on an investigation, you go and you are provoking, or if you're going in there and you have full intentions of battling a demon that night, you're going to run into something negative. You've already set that intention. You've set that tone for the night. that's probably going to happen.
And that's what you're attracting, right?
Right. If for no other reason, it's because you're attracting it, or it's because you've already decided that for yourself. In your mind, what you're going to contact is going to be evil. You've already made that decision.
You've made that decision going in.
How are you going to go and find something and understand it if you're already going in there with a set intention? Your intention when dealing with spirit is keeping an open mind and being respectful. To me,
absolutely, Shawn.
That's what it is to me. I think that going in there, I mean, there's locations that are known for having evil or door gateways or whatever. And if you go in there thinking that, then you're setting yourself up. You really are. Go in there with the right mind, and be prepared. Always be prepared. I'll tell you what, I've gone into people's homes. I didn't think I was going to have experience anything, but oh my gosh, it turned my world upside down a couple times. You don't know, so you got to go in there and expect and think that you know. Because here's the real truth: as a paranormal investigator, nobody knows. That's
absolutely
the real truth when you're going in as a paranormal investigator. Now, if you're going in as a psychic, if you're going in with the more spiritual, that's a whole nother story. I'm saying as an investigator. So you don't know. You can't.
No, you don't. You have to be prepared.
Right. Most people can't look at a building and be like, oh, there's something evil in there. Most people can't do that. They don't know.
No, it's true. I think if you go in prepared, you're grounded, you're centered with an open mind, I think you'll get the experiences you're supposed to and actually make a proper communication with the spirit. And you will learn something, right? You can even help that spirit or that spirit's, family, so to speak. I know, like I said, I've gone into hospitals, I've gone into places, and all of a sudden it's like out of the blue, boom, the spirit appears because I'm open to a certain degree. I go out with the intention that if there's something I need to do or to help a spirit, that's my intention, they will come. And I have enough protection around me that I know I will be protected. So then right there, I've set that intention that I'm there to help a spirit. If a spirit needs to be helped in some shape or form, I'm there, right? And I can actually facilitate and help that spirit, even if it means connecting with a family member that's still alive, per se, right? Then this is how I do my job. And this is where, for me, it becomes fulfilling, right? And paranormal investigation is just honing that skill, so to speak. But it's also to see if there are spirits out there that need help. And some spirits just want to communicate. That's the other thing too, especially like when you go to these houses, right, where you're actually supporting these haunted houses by the donations you make as a paranormal investigator or a team, right? And the spirits, I think they kind of get it, they're just in a different realm. It's like me being in this room and knowing that in another room there's another cluster of people, so to speak, but what separates us is a room. That's how I look at sometimes when I think about spirits, is they're just in another realm. Because ultimately energy cannot be destroyed, right? It just transforms and becomes something different. So I think that it really does come down to your intention and how you, whoa, sorry, my drink got spilled by my Roddy here. Zola is getting impatient for some reason. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say on that subject. Jean-Jerome, you look like you want to add something here.
Yeah, no, I think just for people watching, and Shawn, what is the criterion, or how do you, if you're doing an investigation, how do you determine the type of entity you're dealing with? And putting it out there that not all spirit forms are humanoid if you will, or human. There are other types of spiritual entities and forms that are clearly not human. Not necessarily in the Judeo-Christian sense can be classified as demon, or those terminologies are too linked to the Abrahamic religions, right? In many
And
cases,
overused.
overused and oftentimes with no clear understanding of really what you're dealing with. But just to point out something non-human, have you had in your investigations experiences where you've seen both, and how have you, with your investigator, have you determined one or the other? Have you had a psychic? Have you had a person, a practitioner of another belief system, or how have you deciphered that?
Honestly, if it was something that I felt was kind of like beyond me, beyond my capability of helping them, then I would find somebody that could. A lot of times it would be there's some psychics that have helped me. I've had other people who have other outside beliefs who have helped in several cases. I had a case with a voodoo doll that I needed help with. That was an interesting case.
Okay.
Well,
do you want to share that one?
I could share a bit about this one. I won't say names. So this case was a friend of mine who their daughter made this doll, and she didn't know what she was doing when she made it. Her daughter saw her mom's friend making one at her house. She was over there playing with her mom's friend's kids, and she liked it. She was attracted to it for whatever reason, and she was making voodoo dolls for whatever her spiritual beliefs were. And well, without contacting my friend, the mom, and without permission, this person had her daughter make a voodoo doll. So we have this voodoo doll that was making the mom felt it before she saw it. Like, she got really nauseous and dizzy, and she found it, and she asked her daughter about it, and her daughter had a really strong attachment to this doll. Like, just, she didn't want to be away from it. Like, the doll had to stay in her room. She had to be with this doll. And so I had to reach out to several people to help me out with this doll, because we have no clue what the intentions are with this doll.
Mm-hmm.
We have no clue. The intentions could have been fantastic. Who knows, right? With the way that the dolls work, we don't know. And the daughter doesn't understand. The daughter just knows that she put some hair in there, and maybe she made a wish. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the daughter had an unhealthy attachment to this doll. It wasn't like a regular I play with my dolly type of attachment. It disturbed the mom, the way that she felt about this doll, to the point where she contacted me.
How old was the daughter? Sorry.
Daughter at the time, I think she was like 8, or somewhere between 8 and 10. She was younger.
Oh, boy. Okay.
This was a couple years ago, and the daughter is now, I believe, in like the 8th grade now. So yeah, she must have been close to 10 or so. She was like at the age where she's still like probably a little bit too old for dolls, but either way, the whole thing was just like weird. And actually, what's funny is the doll that she found it sitting on this chair that they got at a fair. They got this handmade chair. It's a creepy looking chair, and it's definitely tell it was hand built. And so actually, I ended up donating that chair to a local historical location who does paranormal investigations called Madison Seminary. So it's there in that building somewhere. And But then this, so what we did though is with instructions is I had them take the doll and they put it in a bag and they put it kind of like in a closet in their house.
Right.
And they they keep it like they like slowly moved it closer into their room until they got it out of the house. And the daughter, like they were able to ease the daughter away from. She now doesn't even basically remember the doll. Wow, it's weird, right? So yeah. Right. So now I took it to some friends and they did a ritual and they bound it. If I would be lying if I said if I understood the whole thing, but they spit the liquor on it and they blew smoke on it and they wrapped it and bound it, and now it's locked away in a freezer until we figure out something else to do with it. So it's been in this for a couple of years now. So, but it's bound and it's taken care of, and so sometimes you got to reach out to the people that do know. Like I would have been like, you know what, take it, and I would have known. Just okay, yeah, it needs to be bound and buried. Yeah, but the thing is, you don't know what all the intentions are. Some people are like, take it apart. I'm like, no, I know better than that. Yeah. I know better than that. I want to know what that hard thing is that's inside there. Trust me. I'm curious. Yeah. I'm a paranormal investigator. I want to know what's inside there, but we're not going to find out. No. We're not going to find out. It's good for you. It's wrapped and bound, and they did the ritual, so it's taken care of. It's just a matter of now. I mean, I guess technically they said we could burn it or we could do whatever with it now. Now it's ready to go on to. But now it's just kind of sitting. The next stage. Yeah. It needs to be released. The spirit that was bound within that. They said that it was released. They said basically it's just a I don't know. I with that, like I don't know enough about voodoo or about the dolls to really understand what the next thing is. But one of the things that I was told to do. This is probably, I don't know if I should say this on the interweb, but I'm going to. Go ahead, say it, Shawn. That we should bury it on hollow ground. And so we found an old cemetery where we're going to try and bury it at. So we're there. We had a shovel. So we're like, but then we got paranoid and we stopped and we didn't. No, the other thing you do is certain spiritualities like that, you surrender it at a riverside and or into the river. Right, but that's why in Ifa, on something like that, we would ask Ifa what the ultimate destination or what has to be, and then we would follow those requirements, and then we would ask if any additional ceremony or offerings need to be done in order to appease the spirit and to wash the energy. Away from the family of the person, because sometimes you send it on its way, but the spirit doesn't leave. Yeah, you can even bury it, and if you don't know what you're doing, and if the entity has already, attached themselves more to whatever the object of their interest is, the entity, if you want to call it an infestation or attachment, remains, right? Right. Yeah. It just finds a different vessel. Right. So my concern with doing that and burying it was, what if somebody finds it? So what happens? Someone finds it, they're going to unwrap it, they're going to open it, who knows? I don't know. And this is a child that we're dealing with. So that's why we're here kind of stuck. Like, what do we do with it? Because this is a child that we're dealing with, and we don't, again, there's that big unknown factor of not knowing what the intention was with that doll. I mean, but this is the problem is this woman had a child make this doll without permission from the parents. This woman, I mean, there's so many levels of that just should have never happened. Now, would my friend have said yes if she asked to make the doll and she understood it? Probably. She probably would, because she's open-minded. She doesn't. Her daughter wanted to do it. Okay, if she didn't see any harm in it, she probably would have. But
no, but there are certain things you shouldn't play with. Like there's certain things like
and you don't dabble in.
We're on the air. We're on the air, so I won't say the Cuban expression for this. But in Spanish, we say, if you want to play with certain things, es mejor jugar con un palito y mierda. It's better to play with a little stick and shit rather than play or do certain things, because what you're bringing upon yourself, can change your life, but not in a good way.
No, absolutely.
That's the truth. And I tell people that if I'm doing a home investigation, one of my first questions is, have you done anything to try and communicate yourself? Have you tried to do TV sessions in your home? Have you done set up cameras? And as soon as they say yes, my answer is stop. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You don't know what you're doing. This is your home. I don't even do that in my home.
Stop.
I don't do anything. I got
stop me to they'll be back.
Yeah. I got a hacked radio. It's one of the tools that paranormal investigators use. It's a radio that flips through radio stations, and spirit's supposed to be able to talk through this radio.
Yes. I know the tool that you're speaking of.
So I had this hacked radio. So the ones I have, there's several versions. The ones that I have are literally, they're hacked radios. They flip through stations and then they're supposed to talk through it.
They play with the different bands.
Yeah. And so there's other versions of it, and there's ones where they use different filters and things to make it sound cooler. But the end game is the same thing. And so I wanted to try it out, but I wasn't going to do it in my house. So I did it outside. I still did it on my property, which I shouldn't have, but I did. And I don't do this.
And what happened?
Oh, I got some great communication. And I at the end, I was like, just so you know, this doesn't mean that you can come to my house and talk to me, because you cannot do that. Because you come into my house and scare my children, you scare my wife, we're going to have real problems. So let's not play this game. I set that intention from the beginning that this is a one-time thing. But I tell people, don't do that. Don't do that in your home. You're inviting more. As soon as you're trying to talk to spirit in your house, you're letting that spirit know it's okay for them to talk to you. So the next time something scary happens, it's because you asked it to. And you may ask it to do something, and then 3 days later it does something. But in their minds, it's because you asked it to. It doesn't matter. There's no time is something that's created by us.
That's correct.
It's a man thing. It's not. The time is not. It's not a real thing. I'm sorry. Is that the wrong way to say that?
No. That's
right. No. You're right.
I was thinking, like, for people that are listening to this, some people might say, this is, sometimes, these gadgets and this and that. But I just wanted to make a comment as remembering, because my mom's birthday. When my mom was in the Academy of Sciences and in Cuba, and my mom was a career diplomat, and it was a doctor in law, public administration and law, and specializing in international contracts. So she worked at the United Nations, CEPAL, and everything else. During that time, of course, when Castro took power and Cuba began to do a lot of, having a lot more interactions with the communist, party and everything else from Russia, the members of the scientific community from Russia came to Cuba, but in fact they were KGB, and the KGB had a program where many of the things you described today, right, but very early forms and all that, there was an entire program within the KGB to do paranormal investigation to understand supernatural phenomenon, to gauge people's psychic ability, to gauge people's, be able to hypnotize them, to see their past life. There was an entire program under the KGB.
Remote viewing, etc.
That's
was
right.
part of that Cold War.
Well,
especially in the 1960s, early 70s.
What's behind me is the Parapooch. That's what I named him. That's a dog that it's kind of like
Parapooch.
Yeah, I keep him behind me. He's I'm sorry, I don't know the correct way to say Vianney.
Vianney.
Time is a man-made construct. Time is not real. No, it's what we choose to measure units of time. Using the word time. Using units to distinguish throughout the day, right?
Right. And it tells us when we have to be at work, and so we're not late. Don't get written up. Whoever invented time is a jerk.
Well, that's actually, I'll do a quick segue, but one of the biggest things with IFA consultations or any consultation or Varisha, and even things about is that when IFA says, and I've had this situation, IFA will pronounce, different prophecies and different situations that the person is going to face. The problem is that when it comes to time, Orisha time, the time of the Orishas, the time of the spirit world, the time of Ifa is not, as we've said, the same as man's or man-made time. And therefore, some people sometimes when Ifa gives a forecast, they ignore it, or they no, I don't see it, whatever. But then months later or a couple of years later, exactly what Ifa has described shit happens. And it's one of the most difficult or one of the biggest challenges for Babalaos and also Orisha who consult or even to give really measurements of time, right? Because the time, what they're seeing is in spirit world's time. They're not seeing it in our earthly time.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. And like when the one thing in the paranormal community, and you've probably seen it in movies and TV shows, is they call it dead time or the devil's hour or whatever, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm not a big believer in that. Because first of all, what spirit is going to be like, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to go mess with these people now.
Yeah,
I know it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
They're clocking in at 3
it's time to clock it. Right. This is time to be more active. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, guys. We're going to go throw some shit now. Because it's 3 in the morning. Now, also, I have noticed that most activity happens well before 3 o'clock in the morning. But to contradict what I'm saying, there's a lot of times when I do have kind of spiritual I experience things spiritually around 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, I don't know if the time has anything to do with it, but it does tend to be somewhere between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning. Why, I don't know, but I'm not a believer in the time.
I am and I'm not, like you. But the thing is that at a certain point in time, for myself, I speak, when I'm asleep, let's say, when I finally go to sleep at 2 or 3 o'clock, sometimes I stay up till 4. I find if I stay up, there's usually a reason, because at that point in time, my mind reaches a certain alpha state. I'm just about ready to go to sleep. And this is sometimes the time that my spirits start to speak to me. And it'll be things that they'll start to say, or they'll put things in my mind that I see certain things. And all of a sudden it's like, boom, I'm starting to perform, so to speak. It's when I get on there and I start putting things into my story, for example, on Facebook. It's like suddenly I get these profound messages and I'm wide awake, right? But I think it really is an individual thing. Sometimes let's say, for example, I go to bed, and when I was working and I had a job where I had to be in bed by a certain time, I always woke up at around 3:30. I'd go to the bathroom, and during that time, I know I've already had a dream, or something wakes me up, and then it's like whatever's in my mind at that moment in time, I'm awake for a brief period of time, and it's like, okay, there's a reason for this. And suddenly it's the thoughts that are put into my mind, it's the visions I'm getting, and I try to remember them, or I'll write them down and I go to bed. But there's something that will trigger something within me. And I do believe at that point in time, it's spirits, and it's my spirits, or it could be a visiting spirit, because when you're going to bed, or when that certain witching hour happens, your mind is changing. There's that change from consciousness. You're tired. You're ready to shift gears in your mind, and this is that shifting that spirits understand, and this is the time to communicate. That's what I believe. I wanted to address what Vianney is saying. Spirit speaks in past, present, and future. Yes, it does. But it's when it chooses to interact with our world. Remember, we are in this third dimension. And so for us, time is relevant. So that 3:30 in the morning waking up has relevance to me, for example. And that's when spirit chooses to speak to me or make me conscious or cognizant of something. So it is and it isn't. It really is a matter of perspective for yourself and how you view it, or it isn't, right? So is there any, Shawn, so I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, or I know that before we get to upcoming events or things that have changed as far as your show is concerned, I did want to address one thing, and I know Jean-Jerome's going to hate me for it. Tell me your connection with Bigfoot, okay, with Sasquatch, because I know I have to, Shawn. You live in the land of Sasquatch. Ohio, for me, judging from the rest of America, has a lot more sightings in Ohio. You yourself, you live near so many parks. What has your experience have been? Do you think it's because if you're an open enough person that these beings are able to communicate or make themselves more visible, do you think? Because look, there's Jean-Jerome. Look at the smile on his face. That smile of disbelief, okay, for one thing. Stop your giggling, Jean-Jerome. I'm telling you.
No.
So, okay.
No, come on. All right.
Bigfoot. I have
ignore
never.
him. Ignore Jean-Jerome, okay? Ignore him.
I have been on one Bigfoot excursion my entire life, and it wasn't even like a real thing. So it was like I did a paranormal, like a paracon, and so they did have Bigfoot enthusiasts or hunters, or I don't really know. But there's also a ufologist there. So we did a really cool thing. So we went to a Native American burial mound, and we did first we did we had someone do a blessing, and then we tried to do like an EVP session, and I did like the whole paranormal thing, and then we went and we did a Bigfoot thing, because there's, like you said, in our area there's all sorts of stories of Bigfoot, and then we got to the top of a sledding hill and we did the UFO thing. And these guys did these crazy calls. They do crazy calls. They look crazy doing it. At least when I'm sitting in the dark, like
I'm not doing any of that stuff, right?
I'm not going rah, 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 whatever it is. But for me, Bigfoot, I personally have experienced things in the woods that I cannot explain. However, I did not see.
Okay.
Things I heard, I did see. I've seen lights. Oh, that's a whole other thing. We're talking Bigfoot. And so as far as like creatures like that, I've never experienced Bigfoot. I've seen other spiritual creatures, I believe, but not a Bigfoot. I think that Bigfoot is probably an interdimensional being who I don't get how can they tell me how many mountain lions live in Northern California, but they can't find Bigfoot? They can tell me how many coyotes live in my county, but they can't find Bigfoot. Coyotes.
Correct.
Coyotes are everywhere. How can you tell me how many coyotes are here, but you can't find Bigfoot? I don't get it. They can go and find a new bug in the rainforest, but they can't find Bigfoot. They're going to find a little teeny tiny little itsy bitsy little bug in the middle of a rainforest, a vast rainforest.
Yeah.
But they don't find Bigfoot. So that's where I have a problem with it. But I do believe that people experience something. And I believe that Bigfoot is probably one of those spiritual creatures, if you want to put it with Pugwaji, shapeshifters, other spiritual interdimensional beings. That's where I would personally believe Bigfoot is.
Okay, and here's my take. I see what you're saying because I ventured into these groups. I'm part of a group that kind of believes in that woo-woo stuff, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that because I'm more scientific in the sense that I really do believe that these creatures exist. Jean-Jerome, stop. I'm telling you. I think they exist. I really do. And I think people have really experienced them. Okay. Just because you can find a bug in the rainforest, okay, because you're going there and you stumble upon it, okay, just like someone going into a forest and looking for Bigfoot, they may stumble upon it. There are some weird things out there, okay, but there are communities, there are places where these beings actually exist, okay, like the coalescent. That's my famous. Throw it out there. You know what? Everybody didn't believe it existed until some fisherman pulls it into their fishing net, and there's the creature suddenly appears, right? And they thought it was extinct for what? Centuries, right? I think that this creature is elusive. I think this creature exists. We don't have any parameters to measure the fact that, you know, they find scat, they find footprints, they find fur. They don't have anything to measure it against because they have not found it yet. Yet they have all these so-called scat, pieces of fur, etc. But they can't measure it against any known genus of animal out there. That's how I look at it.
How many countries around the world have some sort of story about a Bigfoot type creature?
Absolutely.
It could be. There's so many different names of the Sasquatch. There's Abominable Snowman. I don't even remember. There's Thailand has a version of it. They're all over. So, but that takes me back to though. How is there not proof of this? I've come across a bear in the woods. I wasn't looking for it. I was hiking. I come across a bear.
People have taken pictures. I remember the story. Remember when we were on your show, Shawn, and I had brought up the Dyatlov Pass incident back in, I think it was the 40s in Russia. Okay. And in the Ural Mountains, people refer to them as the Manx. Okay, these are the indigenous people who live in Siberia in the Ural Mountains of northeast Siberia in Russia, and they know these beings. They have seen them, and if they see them, they yell out "Mank," and every known human goes, "Oh shit! There's that big hairy creature," and they all like split, right? Because they go through the forest, they forage through the forest for what is it, berries or mushrooms or whatever. And these beings are out there, and they have filmed them. One of the things that was interesting was in that the Dyatlov Pass. These were the 9 student hikers that had gone out during their break in school to go out camping in the middle of winter. I mean, this is what they do. Okay. Anyway, and they captured a picture, and this is a film. Now, if we're talking about film back in the 40s, you couldn't fake any of this shit. And there it is in the distance. There's this creature, this furry creature, right? And he's there. It's a well-known being. The indigenous people have lived with them, and they know of them. Okay. And you're not going to tell me that every one of them is having an interdimensional moment at the time that they're foraging, picking up mushrooms or berries or wherever it is, right? Suddenly, it's like, whoa, there it is, right? Maybe they are. I don't know. But I do believe that these beings do exist. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on it. I don't want to go any further because I know Jean-Jerome is just waiting to take an opportunity to, he's on your side, okay, Shawn? He's on your side. He's not on my side, right? He never is, right?
I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I don't really know. That's one thing that maybe separates me from other people. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. But the thing is, I just don't get, with technology today, I have trouble understanding how
I agree.
So
I agree.
If we were talking about the ocean, then okay, I get it, because we've only been able to explore a small percentage of the world's ocean. So, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do. Maybe Bigfoot is just like a master of disguise, or maybe he's a master of hiding. Maybe he's like the hide and seek world champion, and we can never find him. I don't know. One thing I do know is that they have found remains of giants. So there were giants on this planet at one point. There were other things on this planet that we cannot explain. I don't want to discredit it, but it just really seems like, to me, it just seems very unlikely for it to be a physical creature. Like, it's the wrong term. For it to be like something from our dimension. Like maybe it's a cross-dimensional creature that sometimes that crosses over. I mean, there's dimensions that are there's parallel universes.
Absolutely there are, Shawn, and I'm open to that. I totally am. I think Ken makes an interesting point. They have found DNA from an unknown primate species. Also, a Native American elder, a Seminole native, says they primarily live in caves underground. Exactly. Now, there was something else I came across, because over the years I've been following people like actual, not woo-woo, paranormal outlook on Sasquatch, but more scientific, that these creatures, what they do is they stand motionless and they blend. Yes, thank you. Dyatlov was February 1959. Thank you. Sorry, I said the 40s. Thank you, Beth. Hold on. I'm going to read what Beth says before I get back to what I wanted to finish to say. They said cougars didn't exist in Ontario because no one had shot one or a picture of one. But then they got DNA, and a couple of years ago, they finally had a body. The people who had seen them were mocked. Exactly. And you know what, Beth? I'm going to say something, because years and years ago, I had gone to Guelph for a New Year's Eve party. Okay. And at that time, it was around Guelph, I think, around that area, there was a so-called cougar. Okay. And the locals said there was a cougar. They heard sounds that sounded like, and I mean, we didn't have them apparently in Ontario, but yet enough of us have watched Wild Kingdom of animals, whatever show, to know what sounds like possibly a cougar or something like that. Well, as it turns out, a lot of local people in the Guelph area heard these sounds. They started noticing chickens were missing. Other various livestock were missing. And it was, I think someone actually ended up taking a picture and took a picture, and it ended up being a black cougar. Okay. So then they were curious as to like, okay, so like, where did this thing come from? Right. You know, was this a pet that was released into the wild, or what, you know, is there, you know, more than one? Right. Well, as it turns out, yes, they do exist. They're very elusive. Okay. Yet they exist. Now, getting back to what I wanted to say, and Malvin, where did they find giants? Well, recently I was watching something on one of the Facebook groups in Peru. Apparently, they're giants and their head being elongated, etc. There's Peru. I think there's in other parts of the world, but anyway, yeah, no, and other parts. Oh shit, I'm trying to remember. Peru is the only one I can think of. But anyway, getting back to
the skeletal remains supposedly found here in the States that supposedly they keep the remains. Yeah, no, Bigfoot.
A giant. Yes. That's right. In America, even. That's
supposedly
right.
They keep it at hidden or locked away. It's at the Smithsonian, one of those museums that they keep. So,
right. So I just wanted to finish my thought on Bigfoot, was the fact that they said in one of these research groups that they actually stand there and they become almost immobile, and they blend in so well with their environment. They sort of hunker down, put their head down. They almost appear tree trunk like, and they become motionless. They drop their heads and everything about them, and they just sort of stand there and they kind of disappear, right? And it's not until you come within their vicinity that all of a sudden it's like, you know, it's kind of like they're going from this to, they suddenly stand up, turn their head, and it's like, holy shit, there he is, right? So if you want to talk about elusive, you want to talk about certain characteristics and traits of animals that exhibit, like, for example, the possum playing dead, right? This, doing that. Well, a Bigfoot becomes a tree trunk. If you think about not wanting to be found, and let's say there's quite a few humans, what better way than to just stand there motionless, sink your head down, close your eyes, and suddenly you become a tree trunk and you're standing next to one. Someone can pop by you. Yes, apparently they smell, so, you know, it's a dead giveaway, right? But I mean, anything can smell in the forest, a dead animal of some sort, right? You won't necessarily attribute it to that. Anyway, I kind of wanted to end that conversation with regard to that, because we could go on and on about that. I just find it's really fascinating. To me, Ohio has a lot to offer. And one day I'm going to come and visit you, Shawn, to go on a paranormal investigation. Also to visit. Oh, wipe that smile off your face.
We can do both. I know some great locations
to do a
that are great. I know places that are great for paranormal investigating and for Sasquatch.
See, there you go. I'm going to Ohio.
There's a place
at Sue Airson-Bia's house too.
There's a place where I've gone to twice with of my friend John Ward and fellow investigator, and we've had experiences twice now with something happening and hearing a noise. We can't see it because it's night. So there's something in those woods. Something in the same area. There's something there. We don't know what it is. It's a weird noise. At first, I tried to discredit it as being like You know when you're in the woods and the wind blows through the trees, it sounds like moaning.
Jean-Jerome, stop it. I swear to God. You know, when I see you tomorrow, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. I swear to God. I'm going to give you a noogie. Okay?
How are you going to give him a noogie?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump. I'm going to grab his head, put him under my underarm, and I'm going to take my other hand. I'm going to get him a noogie on his head, on the top of his head. You're going to get it.
He does have some hair. Okay.
Yes. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do to you tomorrow, Jean-Jerome. We are
going
blended tomorrow.
In with the darkness. You have short hair.
Yeah. Tomorrow we're going to conjuration camp. This is something that we've been invited to by Utu Witch Doctor. And we are going to do, well, Jean-Jerome is actually going to hold a ceremony, okay? And I'm going to do some readings, and there's going to be a bunch of workshops and other people to see within the community of the African traditional religions, and anyone else who, you know, wants to join in, that type of thing. So anyway, we've got a big day tomorrow, and awesome. And I wanted to now, before we go any further, Shawn, your show is now, you know, it's starring just you, okay? But you are now going back to doing your paranormal investigations. Now, there was something, and I missed it. You are going to start doing a documentary with a team. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Wait, I'm doing a documentary with the team?
I don't know, or did I misunderstand that?
You saw a post. So, you did. So my team, Dark Alley Paranormal,
right.
Ray Gooseby, he and the other team leader decided they wanted to do a documentary.
I have to stand up. I got a cramp in my leg.
So that's the Sasquatch right there.
Right. I'm
it's
Bigfoot.
An angry woman standing up who's been sitting for hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Jean-Jerome, get that smile off your face. I swear to God. What's this? Going high school bully there, Teresa. Yes, I am, Malvin. Nice. I resort to those things when I'm tired and when I'm sore. I totally go to that.
I'm going to tell Sasquatch on you, Teresa.
Oh, go ahead. Tell him. He's a good friend of mine.
So Goose's idea for his vision for this documentary is to kind of go back to the story, going back to our roots of what got us into the paranormal. And we're going to...
Let's go there.
Yeah. And so, which is really neat. And I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm happy to help. I'm going to be 100% honest. I've done the documentary thing. Like I said, Ectovision Paranormal. If you go, we've done a number of documentaries. Honestly, I feel like it takes away from the investigation, and I love sharing communications and findings of spirit, but I don't like the process of filming. So, but I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be a part of it. Why don't I like the process of filming? Because it's a lot of work, and it takes away
the editing and all that kind of stuff.
It takes away from the connection. When I investigate, I'm connecting with the spirit and what's around me. And when I'm holding a video camera, it takes away from that.
From the experience.
I'm not able to focus in on exactly it. But it's being a part of that team was amazing. Melvin, sorry. And
with Melvin saying
he's probably going to review
going to review it. So be aware.
Right, Melvin. I know and respect you, and I'm happy to hear what you got to say. Besides, I don't think I might do a little bit of editing, probably not a lot. So but I told him I'd help him wherever I can. I'm happy to do it. I love the idea of going back to our roots, what got us into the paranormal. But really, what I want to do is get back into doing home investigations. This COVID-19 needs to go away so I can feel okay going into people's homes.
No kidding.
Right
No
now,
kidding.
I don't feel okay going into people's homes. My kids are going to school now. School's starting. Schools are cesspools. So I don't know. Probably won't be until next year.
I know, and why I'm not returning as a school bus driver myself. It's just going to be a cesspool of germs.
Right. So hopefully, but I am doing the public, like going to. I have a con I'm going to, but we'll be wearing masks. I'm going to keep my distance.
Yeah.
But it's not like going to someone's home,
like our conjuration con.
Right. And I'm not going into someone's house where their germs are everywhere. And of course, they'll be like, yeah, can you please, disinfect your entire house for me so I can come in? And I have to trust that you're going to disinfect every single light switch, every single doorknob, every single piece of furniture that I might possibly touch. Because honestly, when I'm in paranormal, you never know. Oh, if I wear gloves. Okay, so this is me. I'm wearing my gloves.
Uh-huh.
I got the Rona right there.
You got a mask, right?
I touch my face. I itch. I pull my mask. The germs are on my gloves. I overthink it. That's where I'm at. So I'd rather just go wash alcohol, my hands,
the sanitizer, and do it. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah, we have to wait.
It's just going into someone's house. That's just until it calms down a little bit more. Down here in the States, agree. It's ridiculous.
I agree.
It's ridiculous. I don't understand why it's gotten to the point that it has. But I have a good friend who is a nurse practitioner, and I don't like the stories that I hear.
No, and I totally agree with you, Shawn. I really do. I'm standing here and I'm waving my leg back and forth just to get the kink and the muscle spasms out.
Now, with that being said, though, I did take my family on vacation this year. We did do that, and we used common sense when we went on vacation.
Yes, I saw your one of your investigations. No, totally. It's valid.
I took my family to Myrtle Beach on vacation in the spring.
Right.
We went, and you know what? We used common sense, and we washed our hands. We used hand sanitizer. We wore masks, and we stayed away from people. And we went to the beach, and we went swimming in pools. And we had a fun time. All it takes is a little bit of common sense. I don't get it.
Absolutely,
I don't get it.
Shawn.
Why is it?
Why do people fight that? No. It's common sense. It totally is. I
don't get why people. This whole thing is just ridiculous. I don't understand how it got to this point.
You know what? I think that's why our numbers are down, because we all kind of, we're kind of no nonsense, common sense people, Canadians. It's like, wear a mask, it'll help. Wash your hands, it'll help. Do this, stay distance, it'll help. We do it. We're not dying by the thousands, knock wood. Clunk, clunk, clunk. But anyway, Jay has an interesting question. What are your thoughts on shadow people? Are they positive or malignant? What are they? Shawn, can you answer that? I'll tell you what I think, but go ahead.
I think that shadow people can be a number of things.
Mm-hmm.
I have experienced a shadow person. It is in the story that I told you about. And actually, I want to recommend, I'm going to plug my friend, Mike Ricksecker, A Walk in the Shadows. He devoted his research, years of research is in this book. He had experience as shadow people. You can find it on Amazon. It's the same company, Haunted Road Media, that did the book that my story's in. He actually used a part of my story in this book because I saw a shadow person in my room in that same condo.
And Ken,
I think that's bad. That shadow people can be a number of different things, though. I think that a shadow person can be a spirit of somebody who's trying to manifest and show you themselves, and they just don't have quite the energy, so they show up as a dark shadow. Mm-hmm. I think that it can be something that is not human, and that's the way that our brain processes what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the situation. It's not necessarily one thing or another. Is it necessarily bad? No. Even if it's not human, it's not necessarily bad. It's just like
Absolutely.
I said, I think it's just kind of the way our brains process what we're seeing, because we're not used to seeing that. And so shadow, dark shadow, we think scary, so it's automatically something evil because that's the way that we're taught to think. So that's me personally. I think it can go either way. Can it be something evil? Yes, but not necessarily.
No, and I agree with you. That's a very good way of looking at it, and a good point that you made. It's the way our brain processes it. Okay. Now, what is it? Shadow people. I think we've been influenced a lot by TV. Okay, with a lot of past medium shows, like what was that famous one that was on for the longest time? Anyway, she used to talk to dead people all the time. The dark-haired lady, not the blonde-haired one, her show. Anyway, she always mentioned shadow people. And, I thought to myself, what is she going on about? What is this phenomenon of shadow people? To me, when I think about it, and I kind of like grasped a meaning of what that meant, okay, from just watching that show, is for me, out of the corners of my eye, when I see spirits, sometimes they appear like shadows until I turn my head, right? Is it bad? No, it's just a spirit. Does it feel like it? Well, it depends. It depends on what the situation is, okay? If I'm going into an investigation, I know nothing about it, I'm open. I try to sense what is around me, okay? Mm-hmm. If I go somewhere and I'm being told, hey, guess what? This place is haunted, this is whatever, I may be influenced, yes, but I try to go with an open mind, even though they tell me, oh, this place is evil. Because my mind actually works the other way and goes, prove it, okay? Mm-hmm. Prove to me that you're evil, or that this situation is evil. I actually turn the other way when someone, tells me ahead of time this place is an evil place or whatever, right? Anyway, getting back to shadow people. So for me, it can just be a shadow of a person, right? But at the same time, I have a house spirit. My house spirit is fairly quiet. When I first moved in here, not so quiet until I got a chance to talk to him. Now, he appeared as a shadow person to someone who had come to do some plumbing for me downstairs in my basement. And clearly you could see against the light, all right, my spirit, my house spirit, okay, who was the former owner of this house, literally bend down over like this so you could see the shadow being cast onto the floor, all right, from the light, and there is no body there. The guy who I was talking to turns and looks at me and goes, did you just see that? And I go, yeah. He went into the other room to see if there was actually a person there, because there was this shadow cast, right? That looked like a shadow of a person. There was no one there. I knew who it was, and I told him who it was. And he just sort of went, he kind of ended his conversation, said, wow. He goes, I can't wait to tell my wife about this. He goes, but I'm out of here. And he left, okay? But again, that is the way the spirit chose to manifest itself, right? Now, I have also seen on TV when they're talking about shadow people and, oh, there's a shadow in the corner. And sometimes I'm standing there and I'm going, okay, this is a case of pareidolia, okay? You're in a place like right now, okay? I'm going to go into a darkened spot in my house right now. And, well, can you see the spirit behind me? If I tell you that, you're going to start looking for it, right? Is there one there? Nah. Is there not? I don't know, right? It could or could not be, right? I really think that it to me, a shadow person is spirit. And a spirit could be however it needs to appear to you in order to communicate to you, right? That's how I look at it. I don't know. Like you, it really is, it's how it's communicated to you, right? I hope that answered your question, Jay. Again, there's no set rule or no set definition, because not all of us have that same experience. Just because we're mediums, I mean, I don't know. What does your friend's book say? I mean, he might have a completely different experience altogether, right?
There's different types.
Exactly. And I think that's the point, is that there's different types.
Different types. It depends. But yeah.
Yeah, in Ifa, we would use a generic term sometimes, egumburuku, which means spirit, dark spirit. We would use the word iwin, which is like for a ghost or a shadow type of spirit. And in some cases, it can also be a shadow spirit. People or entity can be also kind of shugudu, right? Which is a dark
word, shugudu.
Shugudu, which is a form of spirit that attacks people when they're sleeping, and is like a sleep entity that disturb. But it's also like it's meant to disturb like your marriage, or literally cast a shadow on your life.
On your life, right? Okay. Yeah. No, exactly. So, Shawn, so those are your upcoming things that you want to do, is obviously house investigations. Currently, you're going to be working with your group again and doing public investigations and filming those, right?
So, yeah, when, like this last one we did an investigation at a place called the Gill House. Literally, the only camera we used was this little guy right here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 4K camera. It's made by Zoom, and it's been altered so that it will work in the dark. My friend Justin Brown switched out the lens in the filter, so it'll work with IR lighting. And I got it because you see the whole top of it there. That's all speaker. Musicians use this to record their audio. So I wanted something with good quality audio to try and capture EVPs. So I use it as a static camera. I have friends that actually put these on a whole mount, and they'll use it as their walking cameras for investigations. For that investigation, I will always try and film something. I want to be able to share. If I'm going somewhere, I want to have an opportunity to try and share it. I may not always be able to, but I want to be able to try and share it. I have a personal YouTube channel that has a couple of my own findings on it that I just post on there. I don't like promote or anything, but just so if people come across it, I'm sharing it because the spirit's voice wants to be heard. And so I have the opportunity to share it. So
that's great.
Yeah, so it's just at the Paradad 330@gmail.com. It's the same YouTube channel. So I guess it'd be 330 Paradad on YouTube. You could probably find it there. And there's just some, and then all the Ectovision stuff will be linked there.
Right.
So I actually got a really crazy dowsing rod session at the house, and I'm still reviewing, so that clip is still on private, but I don't know. It's really interesting with these dowsing rods.
There's the Ectovision paranormal team. Okay, that sounds good. So, Jean-Jerome, is there anything else that you have to say about all of this? We're going to wrap it up because it's 1:00 in the morning. I have to get up early because I got to come pick you up, and then we got to go down towards St. Catharines, close to Niagara Falls, right?
That's right. Welland, actually, area of Welland, yeah.
Welland, yes.
So we usually, like Shawn, with you, it's always a pleasure. I mean, we could go on for hours, brother. I mean, there's so many stories and so many anecdotes
I know.
you're going to come up with it. So but what we always do for the show is we ask guests to give us a quote or something that sums up their experience and their outlook towards life. So not to put you on the spot, but if there is like a saying or an expression, a phrase that really sums up your outlook towards life, your experience, and how you see life through this lens of the paranormal and also your normal life.
You know what? My quote that I always use, it's on my Facebook page. Never stop learning. The moment you stop learning is the moment you lose.
Ashe. Good.
Ashe. Ashe, ashe. No, you're right, Shawn. That's so true. I used to always say, I still sometimes say it. I'm always open to learning more. You never stop learning, right?
Yes.
I haven't come to a point where I'm done. There's just so much more. I know with my spiritual path, I have so much more to learn. I have no clue what's going to be coming next, because I don't know.
That's half the excitement.
I know. I don't know. I wish I knew where to look. So, but I guess fate will lead me there.
Well,
so.
Your guides will lead you.
Keep us posted.
You need to go.
You've got family in Canada, so keep us posted on your adventures. And as I said, if there's anything you need day or night, you can count on us. Just message us, call us. We're here for you. You're part of the family.
If there's anything that you come across that you don't understand in a spiritual sense that looks like, something that could be witchy, voodoo-like, call us. One of us is bound to know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There is actually a book that introduced me. Oh, again, it's in my car. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Michelle Belanger?
No.
She used to be on a TV show. She's a well-known psychic. She's got a lot of books. But she has one. It's the Paranormal Investigator's Introduction to the Occult.
Yeah, I've seen her.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know it.
It's that's not the right title, but it's something like that. It's like that's her.
Welcome to the website of Michelle Belanger.
She was on a show.
Yeah, I've seen her.
She was on a show called Paranormal State a long time ago. And to be honest with you,
Paranormal
that show
State
is what made me opened my eyes to wanting to help people. It was their show because they would actually show them going to people's homes.
Yes. Paranormal State. I remember watching them. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
So if you go click on books, she actually has these. She has a lot of cool stuff. But
Paranormal State was based at Pennsylvania University, Penn State.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry.
They were based at Penn State. University of Pennsylvania.
Yes, Penn State. That's right.
Yeah. So that was my introduction to the occult. Honestly, it was her book. And then I met other friends. It's funny how things happen in stages. So and then I made one friend, then I met more and more, and now here I am friends with you guys. So I'm always interested to see what is next in my path, because I know I'm supposed to be learning more. I just don't know
Shawn.
the right way to do it,
I think so, Shawn.
Very good.
So thank you, Shawn. I think we're going to wrap things up. Thank you, Shawn, for coming on our show. It's always a pleasure. And I love talking to you. And you're right. We could go on and on about stuff, So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to say thank you to you, Shawn. I'm going to say thank you to Jean-Jerome for doing all the things that you do in the background and stuff. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. I know we had a later show. And we appreciate everyone tuning in and joining us and making the comments, asking the questions. And sorry, Michelle Belanger, also wrote the Vampire Codex. I'm not familiar with that. I should check that out. Thank you, Jay. And Ken says, thank you, Jean-Jerome, Teresa, and Shawn. Great show. Thank you. And like I said, thank you to everybody who tuned in and asked a question. Story.
Yeah, just a couple of announcements. So again, tomorrow,
Right.
Teresa and I and Beth will be at the Conjuration Camp in Pelham Township, right in the heart of Niagara Peninsula. So we're going to be having sort of different workshops and doing some blessings of the land and talking about the Fa belief system, Orisha belief system, as well as witchcraft, mediumship, and so forth. So we're going to try to do at least a live from there at some point, or at least record part of what we're doing there. And and again, we're looking very much forward to it.
Absolutely.
Other thing I just wanted to talk about, our future guests again are going to be Dalva Laminmeki, Sammy Chamanès, Angela Puka, PhD candidate in magic and paganism, and she's studying in England. Patricia Robin Woodruff, a Slavic shamaness and writer. And we have Lady Ria Rivera, High Priestess Wicca from New York. So all coming up in future shows in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned to Ancestral Eyes. Today we did the show at 10 p.m. Again, and actually for Angela's appearance.
Angela Symposium, one of our future shows.
Yeah, will be September 19th, a Saturday noon, because she's, the time difference. So we will have some flexibility with our show schedule. Like we're trying to make it 8 p.m. and we've been pretty good at doing that for 18 shows. But we're going to show
flexibility. We have to work with our guests.
100%. We want our guests to be comfortable. We want to take into account their difference in time, their work schedules, everything. The main thing is to bring everybody together and to feel relaxed and to be able to really enjoy the experience and not be worried about work or running or too tired and so forth.
Absolutely.
There is completely off schedule or off topic. Not 10, but there's some news circulating on the internet, very sad news that almost made me fall out of my chair.
What?
The Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman has passed away from colon cancer at age 43. So for all of those, that
you're kidding.
Yeah, Black Panther, which this Wakanda Forever is actually a greeting done by Orishas to greet the guardian angel of the person, or the Orisha that the person has crowned. But in honor of Chadwick Boseman, may his ancestors pick him up and may they give him light and help him to continue his spiritual journey in the spirit realm. So our Wakanda Forever, my respect and my deepest sympathy, Sunreo Ibaebe Torun, for Chadwick Boseman. I'm shocked. I mean, like I couldn't adjourn the show.
I didn't know he was sick. Oh my God!
Apparently, he passed away from a 4-year fight with colon cancer.
Oh, what a shame!
So I'm sorry but I couldn't. I thought it would be inappropriate not to, especially with everything going on, not to acknowledge him. I think the movie Black Panther did a lot for African Americans and for just to bring a different perspective, something of a hero image in Black Panther, and again,
and of the African traditions as well,
exactly,
in a different light,
cultural expressions, and there's images of the ancestors and the whole interaction of the spirit world. So he did a great job, and he acted in many very good movies as well, and shows like Lincoln Heights. He was in a bunch of other movies as well. So again, Iba and Torun Sunreo. I think the Hollywood and
God bless his soul.
Has lost a major actor, very good actor, and a good person. From everything I've heard and read of him, he was a really good guy. So,
what a thing.
Yeah,
and also to acknowledge, Shawn had lost a member of the Paranormal the paranormal community as well. I'd forgotten the gentleman's name. I know his last name was Jablonski. Jaworski, okay.
Tom
Pardon me.
Jaworski. He was on the Ectovision team I was talking about.
That's
he was
right.
our evidence review expert, and I'll tell you what, that guy was amazing.
He sounded like a very nice man too.
Yeah.
A very nice man too. So
Very
to
genuine.
acknowledge the passing of people that have meant something in our communities. So, you know, acknowledge God bless.
I mean, the whole premise of our show is, again, life is the journey our ancestors began, and you know, to extend to all people and different cultures, different indigenous belief system, different areas that, you know, study or venerate the ancestors or deal with spiritual phenomena in a serious fashion and for the betterment of society and the communities. But it is important as well to take a moment, again, as we've done now, to you know, pause and to think about the human aspect, right, of the people,
right.
the families, and everything else.
That transition
so again,
to the next world, to the spirit world,
so
and
we're
acknowledge
sorry.
them as ancestors.
So we're sorry for the losses of the people we've talked about. To not end the show on a sad note, I must acknowledge our most steadfast,
Our little furry creature.
our little furry friend, which Mojo, Beth's cat, which religiously now for like 5 shows is constantly watching our show. He tunes in when Beth tunes in. He sits there and he watches our show. So a shout out to Mojo, to my Awo Logbo, my future little furry godson, and yeah. So
look at his head. Aww, he's so damn cute. He really is, little Mojo.
So a little,
like my old cat Mel.
Well, everybody, Odabo, good night, many blessings.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody, for tuning in. Take care. Everybody, be safe. Good night.
Good night.